thank you. I've got 6:30. We can start. Can we receive any apologies? Do we have any declaration of interests in new dispensations?
The allotments, I'm recording, audio recording this meeting.
Yeah, 12B. Yeah, allotments for me as well.
You haven't done any dispensation, request a permanent dispensation or anything?
No, I haven't. Still looking.
Okay, thanks. We can move on to reports. We have County District Council. Martin, good to see you again. You up floor?
Sorry,
I think he gave it to me.
what about public participation?
That's after.
I can't read.
We're number
Oh,
three.
yes, beg your pardon. So, go ahead, sorry.
Further to the comment I made last night about the traffic lights at Spitfire Development, I've got an email from the traffic officer at Shire Hall, basically saying that if they don't remove them for this forthcoming Bank Holiday weekend, they'll be fined. So that'll be, I don't know by how much, but whether I've no idea why they didn't remove it this last weekend, but anyway, that's the progress on that. I don't know if anybody got any questions on my report, but I've just think I've got anything else to add to it. No, really, up to if people have got questions that what's particularly, we seem to be getting lots more money towards transport in terms of funding from the central government for buses and such like. And I've certainly noticed, I don't know if people have, the Robin seems to be around an awful lot more than it was. Maybe it's the time of year. But it definitely is, and it's being expanded into 3 more areas in Gloucestershire. So it's obviously proving to be successful. But the main bus services are going to benefit by how much was it? I can't remember. It's several millions, which will mean that we'll have services running later and more services over the weekend. So, you know, if people want to go to Cheltenham or something, you know, there will be more regular services. Well, that's the intention. Obviously, they haven't yet programmed it. Do remember that I've got my Build Back Better money. I do have my highways fund, which can go towards pavements and anything like that. So, do knock on my door. I've also got the youth fund, which is only a modest sum of 3,000, but it goes towards anything specifically targeting children and outdoor activities.
Mark, can I ask you about that, the fund for highways and access things?
Yeah.
Time factors, because obviously, as you know, we've been talking to your county's consultants about things, and there will be a number of aspects of the centre of town where there will be areas of, hopefully, areas of pavement that could be widened and things like that. Is there any way any of those monies can be sort of advance committed to anything?
Absolutely, but what we need is a project which is funded, costed and achievable, and it may well mean it's TRO, unless that is if you're moving into the road. If you're going into the other way away from the road, that's probably less of a problem.
Yeah.
But certainly that's absolutely what my availability funds are there for, and would welcome contributing.
Okay, that's might be worth any aspects in advance that might be able to be touched before. Yeah.
And I've also got the ability, if in any of these things I'm underspent in a particular year, it carries over. They don't pinch it back.
Do you, would you, if the council were to come up with a potential plan of part of its land that arguably needs improvement on pavements and things, would you still be happy to consider monies for that? It wouldn't have to be necessarily GCC highways land improvements.
No, as far as I'm aware, that it's there for mobility, transport, walking, whatever purposes. So I don't see there's. I mean, it's obviously easier if it's on adopted ground.
Sure.
But if it's not, then.
Well, obviously, if it was something on council land, then obviously council would be able to agree to make any changes.
But I don't see a problem with that.
Yeah.
I'm not aware of having done it to date, but I don't see why not.
No.
So something you can add to the next planning meeting.
Yeah, it's just that,
Exactly.
as you know, some of the plans that we put and we discussed with the GCC consultants about the whole public realm involved a mixture of the highways and parking arrangements, but also the pavements and potentially the areas that we control that are linked, etc.
Yeah, I mean, I think with a situation like that, it's more like let's put a pot in the middle of the table and everybody dollop it in and then get on with it.
And what's the extent of that again?
Well, I have 30,000 a year. I don't know quite how much I've got left at the moment, but it seems there's a bit of creative accountancy goes on.
Yeah, I'm sure.
In Shire Hall.
I'm sure.
But I've certainly probably got, well, for this, depends which year we're talking about, the financial year that we've just finished, or I think technically finishes tomorrow. We have full council tomorrow to adopt for the new year. I've probably got monies left over from last year, plus I've got this year, so I will be starting the year with 30,000 plus, but I can't offhand remember what plus is.
Yeah, it might be worth having a think.
That goes a reasonable distance on a path.
Yes, yeah.
And you probably noticed that the overgrown path between Spitfire and the garden centre has now been cleared. It's sort of slightly ironic because Spitfire, according to the drawings, aren't going that far. But what they've done, of course, is they've replaced all the street lights, and so they've had to dig it all out. So they're obviously then going to have to reinstate it.
Yeah,
So,
I had a resident asked me and said to me earlier today, saying about, we see that they're actually putting a footpath in all the way down to the, from Spitfire down to the garden centre. I said, are they really?
Well, I mean, what I eventually agreed was that the county council would pay for it from where they finished up to the garden centre, but now they've changed the street lights and they're putting new cabling in, and they probably have to push the hedge back as well. That I think we're going to get, ultimately we're going to get a free path, maybe not on the right side of the road, but it's a subtle difference between a free one and one at about 140,000 on the other side. So.
Does anyone else have any other questions for Mark? No? Thanks. We can move on. Thanks, Mark.
Okay.
Angus?
Thank you, Chair. We had a bit of downtime because of the election in terms of council meetings. So the last report that I gave you was in April, and we've only had the annual meeting of the council. Since then, as a council, But there are a few important matters. Before I go into the more strictly Cotswold District matters, I've given a copy to the clerk. I can let you have an electronic copy if that's useful. A few matters which are more, as it were, personal for myself. First, Spitfire. I was down there. The sales team, and they're only the sales team, seemed entirely unaware of the fact that there might be a limitation of 50 houses. They have more than 50 houses up for sale. I have notified that to planning, and the compliance will have a word with them. It's not my territory, but since I happen to know about it, I thought I would make sure that that was passed on. I presume everybody knows what I'm talking about.
It's the occupation, I think you'll find.
Exactly. They can sell as many houses as they like, but they've got to make sure that the people buying them understand the occupancy rules.
Can I give you an update?
Please.
Spitfire have had confirmation from Thames Water last Thursday, apparently, that Thames was satisfied with the phasing plan that they have put to Thames. Now, I don't know whether they've put that to the District Council yet. I don't know what it is, but I'm aware that Thames has come up with a yes to them.
Yes, I'm also aware there's a phasing plan, but I don't know what the details
No,
are either. Yes, so we need to keep track of that. Thanks, Eileen. Another small matter is local GWR, and they were scheduled to do a test on the bridge, and with the noses having arrived by the 30th of April. We've passed the 30th of April, nothing's happened to the steps yet, so I'll get in touch with the management to see what's going on. You're also aware, of course, about SIL monies, so I don't need to comment on that. The other thing, on a more personal note as a councillor, is that I took on a casework project with Cotswold Gate. They, as you may know, certainly you're at least one resident councillor and one former resident councillor. They have taken ownership now of the company that's responsible for all of the development and maintenance. I think that's a really important step that's been achieved as a result of that, and I've already been approached by another one of the other development sites in the town to see if we can help with that. I see it as a project that could roll out across at least the district to try and deal with some of these, I think, somewhat scams that have been taking place. So those are the sort of more personal things rather than the more general Cotswold district. On the area plan, I can let you know that I represented to the officers responsible that we needed to do more work with the local town, and they've agreed. There's going to be a planning for real event. It's currently scheduled for June the 12th. Invitations will be sent out to somewhere of the order of 30 to 40 people in town to try and get a cross-section of people from different sides, from NGOs and businesses and of course councillors and neighbourhood plan people and so on and so forth. So to try and get a representative group present. Planning for a real process is one in which everybody gathers together, and it's a facilitated workshop. During the course of the facilitated workshop, the members of the process engage in looking at, first of all, finding out what are the key needs and issues of the town that might need to be addressed, and what are the hopes and aspirations that the town might have for the future development to be contained within an area plan. That process is going to be externally facilitated. I've met the lady who's online, I've met her, who's going to be facilitating that process, and she's been doing this sort of work with her team for decades, and I hope it will be a useful process for the town.
Can I just flag in, I think June the 12th might be the night of the retail.
It is,
doing that.
but it will be finished. It will be
Okay, so
finished
it's daytime.
mid-afternoon. They've been notified that that will be happening. It was a bit of a question about whether that would be a plus or a minus. You know, it might be a benefit that it's on that day. The next thing...
Sorry, Angus, is this an invitation only?
It is invitation only.
And who's deciding who's invited?
We are trying to collect suggestions. We are trying the Cotswold District officers. The lead officers are sending out invitations. They already are aware of various people in the town, of course. And if you have people in mind that you think should come, please either direct that to me or to James.
Just send it to me.
Shouldn't they be asking? Shouldn't they be asking us? Shouldn't you be asking us? Should the officers be asking us?
They have a responsibility to try and get a wide range of people. They don't need to ask you about the councillors because they know who the councillors are. Who else in the town?
What about asking?
I'm letting you know about it. So, in effect, you've been informed.
I think that
This is not in line with the terms of reference of the working group at all, is it?
The working group won't be kicking off until after this happens. So the working group will kick off. This event will take place in advance, and it's always been, the plan was that we would make sure that before the working group starts working on things, we would get a much richer input from the town through this kind of process, because I certainly take the view that the sessions we've had, valuable as they are, have not yet provided an opportunity for a number of people in the town to really engage with the question of what do they want the town to really look like, and in the process of doing that, give some direction to the officers who are responsible.
I think the clerk is just saying make sure that the officers write to the clerk. I think that's what you're saying, basically.
It does seem strange that the council hasn't been asked. In terms of, this is probably the body that, both in terms of its interest and people that we know. I mean, we just want to see the shortcut to who might be a good list of 30 people. It just seems an odd thing to have missed out.
I note your comment. On the question of officers, James Brain, who is currently he was the head of forward planning. He's moving on into his next job at the end of this month. From the 1st of June, Adrian Harding will be taking over as the interim head of planning services, so that you are familiar with that change of name. That might be useful. Matt Britton, who's the current forward planner, is anticipated to be, at the moment he's the kind of interim head of interim forward planner, and it's anticipated that he'll probably be confirmed in that position. Just a couple of reference names that might be useful to you.
Could you use the first name of Mr. Harding?
Yes, Adrian.
Thank you.
As far as the district council is concerned, you'll be aware that there's a transition process taking place in which a substantial number of officers are becoming focused on CDC instead of working across several councils, and in the process they're moving into Cotswold District, where they'll get the benefit of the full local government pension scheme, and we hope that that will be part of making ourselves a more attractive employment site. There's a real shortage of people in this area, and so we've bitten the bullet to do that as a transition process. We're anticipating the first phase of that, in which everybody would be part of Cotswold District, to be completed by the 1st of November. I took part in a 3-hour session with councillors this morning looking at that process. I'm also on the 2-person team that is responsible for monitoring that on behalf of the councillors and residents, so that you know. So if you've got any concerns, you can also direct them to me on that particular process. We had our annual council meeting yesterday, a few days ago, and as a result, the members of the cabinet have not changed, except that the person responsible for planning has changed. Paul Hodgkinson has taken that over from Tony Dale. We've had some matched funding, £161,000 for EV chargers. 66 EV chargers will be installed across the district in Cotswold District Council car parks. We have one here in the town. We already have a pair of chargers in the there. These are for so-called on-road parking. In other words, for people who have to park on the road and therefore can't charge from their homes. And so they can go to the car park and charge there. That's what they're for. There's one there. I'm not sure how busy it is, but if you think it would be a good idea, I see a lot of tourists coming and there are people who often want to charge up. So it strikes me that we should be a candidate for getting that. And if you'll agree with that, you let me know now and I will pass on that, not only from myself, but, or if you prefer, you can write to them directly.
Can I make a point, being an EV driver? If you're going to use car parks to charge EVs, when you're charging, you're not really parking, you're charging. So I don't think we should be applying parking charges to EV spaces. I guess that's a policy decision for CDC if they're putting them in their parks.
My understanding is that, I don't know the answer to that question. I have a lot of sympathy to that particular point of view. I think the situation is that at night people can come and charge overnight, and I don't think there's a charge for overnight parking, but it depends on what the rule is actually here. We do have quite a number of people who are tourists, and what we do want to be able to do is recoup income from tourists, because that's good for the district and it defrays taxes.
I appreciate that. But if you're going to control whose units you're going to put into your car parks, you can embed the parking charge in the hourly rate, and therefore it's just one charge when you're using it.
Yeah, I don't know the answer to this question, I can't tell you, but I do have sympathy for your point of view. I think the intention downstream will be to think much more about how we manage parking so that residents don't pay things and visitors do pay things as parking as a general tendency. But I'm very happy to take up that question anyway, I intended to. I have included for your information, I notice you have an item on the agenda about the finance of the money that will be coming from Cotswold District Council from the original unilateral undertaking. And so I thought it might be useful to you to have a record of the original decision that was made in Council back in 2022 for the allocation of these funds for the two specific purposes, the Reedsdale Hall and the Transport Fund. There was a discussion about how that should be allocated between the two. There's a briefing note in relation to that, which has also been is part of the consultation of the legal and so forth. That's going to be available to you shortly, I understand. I've asked for it to be, a copy of it to be available.
Is this a new briefing now, Angus?
No, it was originally agreed back in 2022
Yeah, so
that there would be a briefing
we
note.
are aware of this, and I appreciate that you may think we don't, we're not aware of this, but of course we are.
As I make the point in the text, you probably know all about this. It's just a useful to include it so you've got it easily to hand, because I had to go and find it, so it saves you the trouble if it's useful. I'm making a point in this about interchange. I make reports like this, and I'm not sure how useful, what information is useful to you. I don't always get feedback from doing so. And so what would be useful is if you give me some direction about what sort of information you would or wouldn't find valuable to get from me, right? So that I can play a better role. And it would be useful to be able to get into more interchange. And I do have a matter which sort of crosses the boundary of me as a resident and as a councillor. So I'm happy to bring it to you as a resident question, or to bring it to you now while I'm talking, whichever you prefer.
Well, you.
But I've finished
your
the
first
things that
line,
I
that's fine.
specifically wanted to do from Cotswold District Council.
Yeah, well, do you want to carry on
Yeah.
as a member of the public?
As a councillor, I have responsibility for ecology, and ecology in the context of not connected specifically to biodiversity, net gain and so forth in planning decisions, the general ecology of the Cotswold District, and also for agriculture and farming. One of the things that I note is that we have quite substantial green spaces. The Cotswold Gate is a new space where the residents there are thinking about how they can manage that. There are other green spaces, there are a number of trees, there have been suggestions about things. I'd be very happy to engage with you, and I think it would be really, I note that you already do many interesting things, and there are a number of people on the council who have a real commitment to green things. I note that you have a matter further on in the agenda. I was alerted to the fact that there was a problem with the people who were cutting the grass and verges and so forth, and I came out and stopped them. They chewed up your land rather dreadfully by bringing a tractor in very wet conditions, and they were also arguably cutting things down at the wrong time of year. So I know that's not the sort of thing that you believe in, and I know you got involved in it, and it was brought to a halt by the clerk. Thank you very much. But I do think that this town doesn't yet have as great a green space as it could have, and it hasn't yet got the kind of water management, blue spaces, that it could do with. So I'd be very happy to engage with you, both as an individual and to try and bring whatever we can from Cotswold District to support the process. And I hope the county would also be engaged in that, and of course there are a number of NGOs that you know that are also interested in this. So I really would like to see us a joined up process of looking at the town and see what we might do to enhance this as an ecological space and the amenities for the town. We've already got so much here that I love, and it's just about amplifying that and increasing it better.
And Fred, our green infrastructure strategy, yes, that's included in the CDC's policy, yeah, because that's a key document, I think, to build on.
Thank you.
Thanks, Dennis. I think I don't think we're averse to saying when anything crops up that we could be asking through yourself to get any information out of CDC. So I'm sure that during the course of any conversations we have, that we will simply drop in the fact that yes, it would be worth trying to go through yourself, and then we can get some further information as and when it pops up, and we'll ask the clerk to make contact with you. I think that's a good way to move forward, so we always have that in the back of our mind.
Great.
Thanks, Angus. Moving round. Neil?
Yes. Do you mind if we bring my questions forward to this session?
Well, I think the issue is that if you'd like to spend your time trying to introduce that of what you think, to discuss that part, because I'm assuming is it 12B? Then I would suggest that you do that now.
Yep.
Because obviously you don't usually have further conversations with members of the public as we go through the issues. But
Okay.
if there's issues you want to outline for that, I think that would be ideal now.
Okay. I will, if I may. It is. I suppose there are two things that I would like to. 2 points I'd like to make. The first point is that in responding to CDC's plan update, there are two approaches. One is we can follow the tried and tested rule book and process and respond to exactly what's been suggested in the update and give our feedback. And I'm sure you have, and I'm very confident that that feedback and that process has been followed. There is an alternative as well, perhaps a second route, which is to ignore the process and to simply realise or try and identify what is the real feeling within the residents of Moreton, and to relay that back to Cotswold District Council in a way which is more emotional, more personal and more real than simply following the rules set down for the existing process. In order to do that, it would require us to have the information to support it, and that information means asking the residents of Moreton whether they would welcome the addition of a further 1,800 plus houses, as stated in the plan update, or not. And with the knowledge that I suspect the answer would be not, but I don't know, I think the answer would be not. If that's the case, then I'm very keen, together with a group of other local residents, to run a campaign of more direct action to make sure that CDC really understand how the people of Moreton feel. Not just to give them questions and issues to resolve with their experts, because there will always be experts who you can pay to provide you with expert information. I'm not an expert in anything, but I am a resident, I am a human being, and there are many others of us who live in Moreton and who have an opinion, and I think that opinion needs to be heard. So I'm asking if two things. One, would the council, would this council, be prepared to stand up and be counted and front an action programme? And secondly, and perhaps more urgently, would they support financially a survey of the residents of the town so that we can identify what the opinion is? Simple question, a simple yes or no question, saying, do you support CDC's latest local plan update proposal for another 1,800 plus houses to be built in Moreton-in-Marsh? Yes? No?
Right. I think I personally think that there are some issues with that. I don't have a problem in principle with the town council wanting to consider the issue of trying to find out exactly what the people think about this vital issue. I think there needs to be a careful consideration of the question and the manner in which that's going to run, because on a technical front, the local plan update is separate to the CDC strategy, and the strategy which they were driving through within this consultation was slightly separate to their local plan update, and the local plan update was the 300 houses and the increased development area, as opposed to the larger to 41 strategic plan that they were talking about, 1,000, 1,500, etc., etc. And of course that's potentially expanded with an issue as to who that any eventual response could go to, because of the understanding of the potential of a strategic view from the county council as well. So my view really from that is, in principle, I personally wouldn't want to say no in principle to offering to help any group to try to get to glean the information that we would get from the public, so that we can be prepared for any future response that's going to come. Not specifically because about the local plan update consultation, because the boat sailed on that one. We've done that. We've all sent our responses in. We need to wait for our response. And I think once their response comes back, or indeed any other information that crops up that starts to change the goalposts in the meantime, for example, an updated Sheila, which we have been waiting for many months, I would, in principle, be quite supportive of trying to do that. Does anyone have any other thoughts?
I'll have them at 12.
Eh?
I'll express them at 12.
Yeah, okay. What we'll do is we'll move on and have a chat about it when we get to it, Neil. Yeah.
Good, thank you.
Chaz?
Yes, thank you very much. Items on the agenda predominantly. 6B, the insurance renewal. It appears that the council are removing the volunteers insurance element of it. May I ask how this will affect the annual litter pick if the volunteers have no insurance cover? Is that something that's going to be stopped, or is there going to be a separate insurance for that? Item 6C, the agenda mentions the distribution of the UU monies. I'm just wondering whether that's the distribution for both projects rather than just the Resdale Hall. If it is for both projects, have the town council completed the renegotiation of the partner agreement with GWR in light of the decision that was taken in December 21? 9C, with regards to the Resdale Hall, it confirms that the council are no longer custodian trustees since the 13th of May. However, it does appear that you are still paying charges because the license, the payment license is being paid from the 15th of May, and it implies that it's going to be paid again for a few more weeks. I'm just wondering whether or not you're also paying for scaffolding, because my understanding is that once the money went across, all payments from the council would stop from that point of view. So I'm just wondering why that is the case. And I find it curious actually in 9E that the council's been asked to consider requests from the Resdale Trust for the storing of the hoarding in the council compound. It's actually the council actually own the hoarding. I'm just wondering why the Resdale Hall trustees are asking the council to store their own hoarding when it comes down. It's just a weird thing. Should they not be asking for the reuse of it when the scaffolding goes back up? Because you own the hoarding, you should be storing it anyway. Seems a bit of an odd question to me. Just a couple of observations. I would like to make the fact that at the last council meeting it was quite apparent that there were some misunderstandings with regards to one of the previously agreed items. And may I say that this is not the first time that this happened. I suggest that in future, when proposals come to the table, councillors are fully aware of what the proposal is before they take the vote and what the consequences are of that vote before they actually take it, so that they do understand what is going to be written and what the minute actually means, because it was quite apparent that last time there was a lot of misunderstanding. One last question. Can I ask when the last time Councillor Brokenshaw actually attended any meetings, please? Thank you very much.
Thanks, Chaz. I'm just making some notes. Concerning the agreed deal, understanding the purpose of proposal. Thanks. Right, if we can move on to sort out the minutes. The executive signed the annual minutes on the 7th of May. Does anyone have any issues?
I'd like to raise some amendments.
Which items?
Right. See, I'm more detail orientated, I suppose, than the minutes.
Sorry, you're not going to stay for that?
Unfortunately, I can't, because it's going to be about another hour, I suspect, isn't it?
Possibly.
Can we
Yeah.
see to...
Yeah. If you wanted to, I could change the order after this item and try and bring it forward.
That would be terrific if you could, but I wasn't expecting you to do that, but if you
Would
can.
anyone be happy if I did that?
Yeah.
Yeah? Okay. Sorry, Jean, carry on.
Thank you.
Okay, so the public participation. So there was a member of the public actually stated that they thought that the general powers of competence was wrong. That's not been stated here, so I'm not too sure. It doesn't give a narrative, it doesn't give a feeling, it just It's very short and concise. Reports of arrest, it was of a town councillor, that's not been included. So it's very vague as to what the arrest is referring to. Reesdale Hall audit, and the resident actually asked, when will the audit start? So again, it's very vague. Reesdale Hall progress, and there was actually a question, will the town council publish accurate information to the about the charities? So the fact that they've asked for communication hasn't even been acknowledged, because the Reesdale Hall, there was another gentleman that sat over this side that was quite annoyed actually because his questions were not being answered. I have listened to the audio recordings, that's why I'm speaking with clarity. He requested information about the Reesdale Hall progress, but actually it was former Councillor Curry who actually asked the question about feedback with Reesdale. Can you stop whispering whilst I'm talking, please?
I'm asking the clerk if she's got standing orders to hand.
Okay.
Jean.
Well, no, it's just that I'm trying to explain to everyone so we can move on to item 12. I think it's just a bit respectful. My point is that resident, former Councillor Curry, he had actually mentioned about the question, would the town council put to the public, publish accurate information about the money spent on the charities? That has not been included in these minutes. With regards to Transport Hub, the question asked was about the costs of the project. And that's that with regards to item 7, public participation. Do I need to explain anything, or was that clear?
No, the issue of public participation, the difficulty we have in trying to get all of the matters that we're here to go through. People have got 3 minutes to give an opinion and discuss things of anything on the agenda. What it seems to have turned into is to people coming up and serving up a whole series of questions that we don't have the time or the knowledge to immediately give a response verbally, and it would be unwise for anyone to do so without actually confirming exactly what the correct answers would be. And it's like last night, I said, if anybody wanted to put a specific question into the clerk in writing about something, they should deserve quite rightly and will receive, my understanding, an answer as best as can be given. And I also said that I would also attempt to answer any questions if anyone sent something direct to me. I do not believe, and the clerk can correct me if he thinks otherwise, and anyone else can say if they think otherwise, but the public participation, an issue of the minutes, is not to give a verbatim record of everything that was put in there and asked. It's touching the areas of which people raise the subject matters. I don't know anyone else that would say that this is wrong to do it in this way. I don't think it's inappropriate to do it in this way. What I'm saying is that the public partition area is not there for questions and answers.
No, but the minutes are there to be accurate, to represent what was discussed during the
Things
meeting.
weren't discussed. They were a whole list of items that people brought up. And the minutes would be as long as Ryan. Fine.
Minutes are a record of the decisions taken, not discussion.
I've read more detailed minutes from other councils, so
That's irrelevant.
it's not irrelevant. I think this council can improve on its openness. I mean, I've managed to squeeze a little bit, just extra. I mean, my handwriting is a bit slightly bigger, but with regards to the request or about accurate information about the cost, that's not been included. That's not about progress. That's about expenditure on the Reesdale Hall. Could you at least include that, because that has a big mention. That isn't about progress.
Point of order, Chair. Are you
You're not
saying...
here to raise a point of order, Angus.
I'm a member of the public, as a
Yes,
resident.
but you've had your
But I'm also
public
a councillor.
participation.
Well, I'll go ahead and do this without raising the question with
The fact that you're
you if you
district
don't want me to
councillor
bring
makes
it.
no difference to it
Okay.
whatsoever.
I'll go ahead and do it without asking you, if that's what you want.
Jean, was there anything else that you wanted to raise?
I'd like to invite the councillor to contribute to the meeting. He has experience.
He has experience of what?
He's a councillor. He has experience.
No,
I'm requesting that you allow the councillor to speak.
I don't see.
It
that
is,
there's
it
any
is in the
problem.
standing orders
What is in the standing
that I
orders?
can request for a member of public to speak. A councillor can request for a member of public to speak.
Does anybody wish for Angus to participate in this point in time?
Definitely not on this point.
No.
No. No.
With regard to standing orders, I did look about what public participation. I did look in paragraph 3 or H. Yes, it does refer to a question shall not be required a response, but it is for the chair of the meeting that they may direct a written or oral response that is given. But I'm not talking about participation about questions. I'm talking about making a note of what actually was being asked by the members of the public, being a bit more descriptive rather than vague, because a lot of these were grievances, and that's why I think it's a bit convenient that they're vague.
Convenient?
Mm.
Right, what do you mean by convenient?
Because anyone could read that, unless they're at the meeting, they actually know what's been talked about.
If somebody sends a question in to me and it can't be answered, then it will go on an agenda as a full question.
I've never ever seen that happen. When's that going to take place?
What happens all the time? So Neil sent that question in that we've talked about today. That's gone onto the
I've heard
agenda.
of members of the public that have not even had replies to their emails and they've asked questions.
What's that got to do with minutes?
No,
Can we just keep...
No.
I
The clerk
find it
raised
difficult.
about
Excuse me,
questions.
if I may speak at all, I find it difficult to follow your point of thought. You seem to be disagreeing with the methodology of minutes in this council.
yes, because
Now,
it's
surely
vague,
the
it's
best
not
thing to
open,
do
it's not
Is
transparent.
to go on a course, whatever, come back with some thoughts. But we're not here to discuss how to do minutes.
Well, I didn't bring up the topic. All I was giving was my suggestions about what's been missed, because that's...
Last night I did mention that the possibility that through the communications working group, etc., the possibility for the council to reconsider having an area where we could attempt to deal with specific questions along the lines of what Mark suggested with regards to some of the larger authorities, where they enable written questions to come in with a certain period in time before the meeting to enable a written response to be provided and read out at meetings. And I think that would be a good way to go forward, because I think the confusion seems to be that people think that we don't want to answer or you're trying to hide anything, and that isn't the case. The issue is on the night we are trying to get through a large agenda, and you know you sat here, we've had to extend meetings past the 2.5 hour, which has been extended because of the nature of the times that we have minutes, have meetings. It's not appropriate to keep making a meal out of the public participation process through there. But if we change the system, I would be more than happy for that to go ahead. And I think in due course that will probably happen. Because I don't see there's any reason why, given time, staff and members can have an opportunity for the council to actually come back to give proper answers, rather than us attempting to be put in a situation where you immediately give an answer. Like last night, expecting me, who happens to be a chair purely to facilitate meetings, to expect to know the minutiae of every possible thing this council's done since time immemorial. It's just not possible. And therefore, I think if we have the ability to produce questions, which people are able to do, people can produce correspondence, people can ask members, and you would expect to get a rational response within a reasonable time.
Okay.
I absolutely understand that. I absolutely get that. It just needs to be ordered. It's not a case of trying to be disrespectful to people coming in and asking the questions. It's attempting to deal with what you're here to do on the evening. And if we can actually just agree to understand that's the main issue for what we're doing, that when we have an opportunity and we can give people answers to the questions that they have in detail, then I think we should do so, and I don't have a problem with that. But when it comes down to the minutes, Jean, I just don't think we should need to put down the fact that there are certain people that happen to come up with grievances at this point in time when they're meant to be given constructive things to the discussion points that are on here. Everybody hears what they say, and people will come, hopefully without predetermination on things, to consider those aspects that get raised when those items come up for discussion. As it will do that Neil's come up asking something in particular and will come up, the same as Chaz has come up, that people will not forget the things that have been mentioned, and if that has an effect on the decisions processes, then that's fine. If there's a specific question to come, it needs to be coming in a different way, not through the public participation as we have it set out at the moment. If we change that, fine. If we don't, we don't. I don't see that there's any problem in having a simple understanding of the main topics that are raised within the public participation.
I'm sure you don't mind.
So, unless anyone thinks that we should change them, I would suggest they stay as suggested and produced by our clerk.
Okay, there's item 8 on the agenda. I would like to make some amendments there. So 8C, that was never noted. It was never spoken out word for word. I've listened to the...
Excuse me, you're saying word for word, verbatim.
So
do you mean
it was
what you say?
It was noted that the amendment to the minutes did not change the meaning / intention of the original minutes, of which to reduce the endowment to £88,000. That was not discussed.
I said that. I remember saying it.
Well, I've listened to the audio recording.
Then my minutes, and I
We spent 20 minutes on this last time, Jim.
I think that the whole
You know,
point was...
Matt,
We're going into the most insane level of detail on these tiny.
this is recorded for history. This is recorded as reference. Matt, I appreciate. Yes.
Yeah, do you mind
We
if
are
try
going to
and
get on our
act
business.
as a council, Jean, and work with us rather than trying to pick on
No.
every little bit that goes
It's not
by.
accurate. It's not
It-
accurate. It's not accurate, and this is meant to be as
We're
read.
here to do some work. Can we please do it?
This is written in to
It-
cover
it
your
may
backs
be written
because
in,
you
but
were the
can
one
you-
that
can you
seconded
listen to
that
the
a
council?
proposal
We're
with
trying to
regards
do
the
a job here.
100,000 being
I can
given.
talk as long as you
to-
can.
This minute was intended to be sure that everyone understood.
But we didn't discuss
whatever-
anything about that. I listened to the audio recording. I've published it publicly. It's on the public domain. You can get it from social media. The minutes of the conversation, so you can listen to them. No, I've only just started. I only just started yesterday publishing it officially on YouTube.
Let anybody know.
I don't have to because it's. I don't have to let you know because it's my private recording.
What you do because it's your way or no way.
No, it isn't. It isn't. It's about openness.
I don't.
So we didn't agree to that. So I've got that.
So you think it should be 100,000?
We didn't. Item C that's been added here as an amendment wasn't
You think
even.
it should have been 100,000?
Sorry, say that again.
So you think we should have paid 100,000 to the resale?
Do not put words in my mouth. What I'm saying is that we discussed.
Clarifying 88,000.
No.
The whole
I-
the fee.
Don't. You know what's that? What's that smell? Gas. Don't gaslight me. I know I'm being gaslighted. It's not going to work. All right. Okay.
Such a long time
C-
on this point last time.
C wasn't even discussed. There was nothing to be noted. We didn't actually say
There was
noted.
a discussion to be
All right.
clear.
We didn't even talk about that. It's in the audio recording. I will send Sarah a copy. In fact, I'll send you all a copy. A link to my YouTube page
Did
where you can
anyone-
listen
did
to the
anyone else
meeting.
that was here-
And I'll also publish
Don't
all the
talk
meeting
over
that we
to
actually
me.
discussed before
Don't
that.
talk over me, Jean.
I was finishing my sentence.
There is there anyone here that did not understand that Sarah has put into that point in to make it clear that B, when it was agreed to change the wording, that did not change the intention of it being reduced to 88,000. Is there anyone here that did not understand that? And
I'm
therefore,
giving you-
we all agreed to understand that, didn't we?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
I'm giving you one more chance because in the audio recording of the 16th of April, I listened to it today and I asked the question about are we giving the Reesdale Hall the full amount of 100,000k? Are we giving them the full amount? Bob said yes, and Eileen confirmed it. It's in the audio recording of the 16th of April.
Because I was the one.
No,
who pulled the 12
16th of
grand from
April.
100,000.
Well, what I'll do is that I'll provide you with a copy because I can. It's in plainly recorded.
We've arrived at the point where we're agreed on the 88 as noted.
We
here.
didn't agree on the 88. We
So why are you
We did at
arguing
the last
it should have been
meeting.
100?
These minutes.
You
are last
agreed on the
meeting.
100k, and that's why the wording was being amended so that the
Would you like?
why
us
would
to-
you remove
Would you
Andrew
like
Tapp, the
council-
words in-
Would you like the council?
Can I
to-
finish
would
my
you-
sentence?
No. Would you like the council to approve 100,000 rather than 88?
I would like the council to be honest about its decision, but because 2 complaints were made and one was through a resignation, the wording has been changed to make it look like you never made that decision. The decision was a wrong decision. That's why former Councillor Curry and I voted against the 100,000 being given to the Reedsdale Hall.
No, you were against it. You voted against anything to give anything to the Reedsdale Hall.
That was the discussion was about the 100,000.
But we're on these minutes now, so.
Yes.
we're
So
on
this
these
is, so what you're
minutes.
trying to do is you're trying to write in that it never happened. So C didn't happen. So I'm asking that C be removed from the minutes of 8 because we didn't discuss
Just
it.
noted that everybody agreed.
We didn't
At the last
vote on
meeting-
it. We
at the
didn't
last
discuss.
meeting when you did the minutes of the 16th, so the meeting on the last meeting of the 7th of May, you brought that point up, so you did bring it up. You brought that point up
Yes,
specifically.
Point B. Point B
No,
was
you
brought
brought
up.
C about the
I'm not going to be told.
88,000.
I've spent my day listening to that recording today over and over and over
Is
again.
there a chance
to
you
make sure.
misunderstood it, Jean?
No.
Because we sat here last time, as Julie
Yeah.
said,
Excuse me.
excuse me, let me speak. We made these changes for you
Yeah.
last time. You were absolutely insistent
Yes.
that we change this language. We changed
Yes.
it exactly to this
And you went
for
through-
you. And you went through and you were
Matt.
happy.
You're not listening
then
to
we
me.
moved on.
Matt, you're not listening to me. I'm not disagreeing with B. B was approved. We voted on B. We agreed. It says agreed. I'm saying C was not ever discussed. It wasn't part of our discussion. There was nothing. The chair didn't say, is that going to be noted? It is. It is. It's an extra. It's an addition to make it look like the decision was
It's a
made.
note, it's a note.
Okay.
My
Like I said,
minutes-
I'm giving you your
I'm telling
opportunity
you-
to do the right thing.
I'm telling you in these minutes that my minute that I originally wrote was intended as written here, and that's what I said in the last meeting, and that's why I put it in to note, to make it clear that although you changed the wording of my minute, the meaning was the same. That's why that's in there.
Jean, can I just
Sarah,
add on it?
I'm not referring to my memory. I'm not referring to my memory. I'm referring
Are there-
to audio
Jean,
recording that I've
Jean.
listened to.
Jean, are there any other aspects of the minutes that you want to change?
Yes, there is on this document.
Go on then, can you carry on first?
So the error is, so with D, item 10D is what should be, was amended to include a recorded vote for 5 and against 2. And I listened to the audio recording, and Malcolm, you were heard saying that Bob proposed it and Eileen seconded it. It was heard, the names were spoken out, and Eileen's voice and Bob's voice can be heard because they had to say someone had to propose themselves. So it should include, because
we didn't have a record of the names at the time. It wasn't limited.
not how the vote was taken, but who proposed
We
it,
only amended the for and against.
who
didn't we?
proposed it, and who seconded it. Because Sarah didn't even record it. It was.
I can show you what Malcolm initialed in
Oh
the-
my goodness me! You can't seriously. You can't confuse me because I listened to the audio recording and I'm making notes of the audio recording.
Sorry, the legal record is in here, and it tells you in here what was
Legal
agreed.
record of what?
The minutes proceedings.
The proceedings of.
The meeting.
I don't understand what you're referring to.
Of the council meeting.
Was
Do not
item
follow.
10 lettered? Was it 10D? Should it have been 10D?
10 it's 10D because I referred to the
Yeah,
minutes.
well, that's well be there.
Yeah.
I might just be a typo, but the
Yeah.
names.
Yeah, so it was 10D, and in the audio recording,
Can I just check whether it was 10D, Jim?
Right, 10D, yes, so it should say
Okay,
D
so
there.
that
Yeah,
definitely
okay,
should include
you can
the D.
have
Yeah.
D,
Yeah,
and then it says 4-5 against 2.
yes, that's the amendment, because you didn't record it as a recorded vote. When I brought it to council at the last
Don't you go over
meeting,
it again.
yes, I said I requested a recorded vote twice that item.
so,
And then
You
you-
don't need to go
so
over
it's
it
been
again.
amended.
We
to
are
include
going
the
over that again
recorded
because
vote.
somebody had to approve it and
No.
somebody had to second
The
it.
legal record is here, and it says 4-5 against 2.
Yes,
That
but-
was what council agreed.
Do we not record who initials of who proposes it and who?
Never.
Never.
So, D, is there anything other than...
Four. Oh, I do. Okay, I do apologise. It's just four, so we don't. Okay.
Is there anything else other than item 10 and to add D?
I'm just referring. Yes, there was something else. There was my suggestion about the standing orders amendments. There was a last bit to what, and I listened to the audio recording. So this is
You should start.
well, that's why I audio record 10G. So item 10G, I proposed a bit more than what's been recorded here, and it was agreed to add, and in inverted speech comments, speech marks, and to report in writing to the clerk who reports to council, end of sentence. That is what I requested, and no amendments to that were suggested. We went ahead with it.
Did we take a vote on that? I don't think so.
We did, because we agreed it.
What number are we on?
G.
11G.
But that's
Because Matt and Oliver were supportive of that proposal, and we took a vote.
That's reported, that's in there.
Agree to add and be reported in writing to the clerk.
Yeah,
Yeah?
that's in the
It
minutes.
says it was agreed to add and be reported in writing to the clerk.
It's in the minutes.
10G?
Yeah.
So what's wrong with that?
The copy that I have here doesn't have who reports to the council. So the full sentence that I
We
gave.
didn't have to report into the council.
But that's what we voted. That's what we voted on. Is that because you don't want the extra work? Because you can just do it just by attaching a copy to an amendment. Because that's what we discussed. That's what I put forward.
Right.
It's even here.
It's deeply disrespectful to talk to
No, I
somebody
just say it as it is.
who's
Sorry,
employed
I just say it as it is.
council.
I read between the lines. I even wrote it on here, and I read it out to
Are there
everyone.
any other items that you wish changed?
Before we move on, can we not ignore this one, please? Because I wrote it here,
I'm not going to ignore. I'm just asking, is there any other items that you want changed?
no, that's
Okay.
it.
Good, can we,
Right, moving on with the minutes, what I want to ask, does anybody wish to change the minutes? Sorry, Bob, is there
I
anything
have a
else?
comment on the communication strategy, 15. Did we not appoint people to it?
Yes, we
Yes, we did.
Yeah. So it was me, Matt and somebody else.
G.
Yeah, I think we did.
And then a member of the
Yeah.
So Bob, Jean, yeah?
I'm just
That's
checking.
fine.
Oh yes, because of the learning style. Yes.
Okay, Bob. Right, number 7, public participation. Does anybody wish to, everybody have to sign the minutes as they are stated, or do they want to amend it? Can I just have a show of hands of those that are happy with those that stand?
But how can we sign them when we are? When Bob just gave an amendment as well.
I'm getting to that.
I don't understand.
He said point 7.
Point
8,
eight.
10D. Everyone happy to amend to say that that was item 10D?
Yes.
All those in favour of that?
No, against. I'm against your proposal for.
You wanted to change it. You're the
Sorry,
one
I
who
don't
wanted it
understand.
10D.
you just proposed it.
Sorry,
what's
what's
wanted to change item 10D? in
Do
the
I want to
minutes today.
change? Sorry, can you? So what are we going? Are we going through each one that
Yes.
Okay, now I understand.
So,
My
those
apologies.
in favour of adding D to item 10D on 8D in the minutes? Yeah? Can I just have that show again, please? Yeah?
Adding
Yeah.
D to 10D. Okay, yeah.
Because I wasn't here.
That's, yeah, one abstention, that's fine, so that's okay. Does anybody wish to make the amendment proposed by Jean with regard to, where is it, G, 10G? Who wants that changed? Jean, wasn't it you that wanted it changed?
Yes, I do want it changed, but you've missed 8C, because I also brought forward 8C, not just 8D.
Oh yeah, right. Is everyone happy that 8C is agreed as the minute to be put in or to be amended? Can I have a show of hands that shows me that's okay as it stands? Okay, so that's okay. G, standing orders and be reported in rights of the clerk. Who's happy with that as it's stated by the clerk? Again, that's the majority, it's fine. And the amendment to 15 to include, it was agreed group to finalise drafts of reference, and that would commence with Bob, Matt, Jean, and one member of the public. Yeah, with that amendment, are we happy to agree the minutes there? Yeah,
Yes.
so show of hands, please.
For the minutes as a whole, or just that?
Individually, is everyone happy with the rest of the minutes? Can I just ask for a vote, please? I'm happy to propose them. Will someone second the bulk as it stands? Thank you.
Recorded vote, please.
All those in favour? Those against?
One against.
One against? And one abstention. Okay.
You can shake your heads, that's fine. I'm happy to agree to disagree.
That's initial every page, but there isn't that's just on the back of that order. Yeah. Right, moving on to finance, need to approve the list.
Are we not going to do...
Oh yes, sorry Neil, yeah.
That's all right.
Yeah, I just bring 12 up for correspondence. That's 12B. We took 12, not 12B, it was 12B. Right, you can just pull that up. Find it again. Right, member Pope was asked in the wording here to ask about two questions. Would we be prepared to front a direct action campaign being proposed by a group of concerned local residents to reject the local plan update proposal, build at least 1,500 further new
Could be 15,000.
Well, likely if you want the highways and the secondary school, etc. And would we be prepared to fund a survey? Before I actually finish putting my final comments and into what I said earlier, is there anyone that wished to say anything? If I go, Amanda,
Yeah, can I just ask how far, I mean, are we talking the North Cotswolds when we're talking about the town and local villages? Because what the impact of the 1,500 houses is, potentially, for Moreton, will impact on on the North Cotswolds as a whole, and that's connected to roads, and not just our population. This is why I banged on about understanding a full environmental impact assessment of what 1,500 houses would do here. And so my question is, what are we talking about when we're talking the survey of local villages? Because what we're really talking about here is the potential to change this part of the North Cotswolds, because 1,500 houses are not just single occupants necessarily. So we're talking about, you know, cars and everything, and Angus mentioned our green spaces, and this is why it's really important that we understand the spatial strategy that CDC would deploy in letting us see the Sheila for that they think could be brought forward. And so the other thing I noticed is the number of studies that CDC will want to update across the district as a whole. And as I think I've explained to Angus previously, they are not granular enough for what we need to understand about impacts and things here in Moreton. And those have always been my concerns with the documents that we've had from CDC to date. So I throw this out now because the other thing is I'm not sure how much interest would be taken in a direct action campaign by CDC. I don't know what the legality is in terms of, because we're not the planning authority, I don't know, I can't gauge how much notice they actually have to take, because formally they have to consult, which is what they have done, and they will have to come back and consult more. And as Angus has mentioned, they want to hold some events. So I don't know if I can sort of make up my mind at this time.
I think before we carry on going on, I think that the point that what Neil was trying to say is he wants a more emotive record of the desires of the public in this area to be able to go back to these people so that they can see the actual desires from the residents. I think that's the issue. I think Neil probably understands the level of how much they absolutely need to respond or to take any notice of.
Yeah,
because as we know, that even in the district local plan, they were clear that they were trying to avoid things like petitions by simply saying we're going to ignore them, and that's what they said in the local plan. But I think that so I think I understand that, and I think Neil understands that as well. I mean, I think the issue that what he's trying to do is to get a more emotive groundswell of people that will be affected, and you're absolutely right, the impact assessment across the bigger area is what is important, and that's it. But the question comes as to how detailed it's going to be, because it's not going to end up being detailed, because I think that anything that gets asked, there will be questions, and we have to be prepared for this as the group, or whatever group that Neil tries to get together to do this, and volunteers. Then we need to understand that there will be questions to say, well, who have you asked? And are they all electors? And do they live here? And how do you know? So I think the emotive side is that the understanding, to get an understanding from the general population, probably by viewing responses from stuff put through everybody's letterboxes in the surrounding areas, so that you get a general understanding and a view. Because obviously, if you get 2,000 or 3,000, that would be a hell of a response compared to previous responses of any of the type of voting that you get, or elections or polls or anything. And it would have some emotive weight. And that's why I think it's important to make sure the question is right and at potentially the right time, so that if the council wanted to support it in any way, it's because it is going to be indicating to us when we have to make formal responses, to which the other authorities have to listen to through a normal conventional response. So I don't have a problem in us attempting to support that. But yeah, Michael, did you want to say anything on it?
A couple of points. Going back, I'm aware that developers have been digging around here for 2 or 3 years. I hope that everything is not a done deal already. I have a horrible feeling, having been involved in a little way in my past, that things have gone too far already and we're just being given a little bit of information. Be good, children, just listen to this and we'll sort it out. I hope that is not the case. I come back to what you mentioned. If you get a population here of 5,500, the only way that I think we can help this, the people who are making the decisions are elected. They come up for election. Only if they feel that they're insecure will they actually listen now, because I think too much has happened. We're finding out a bit too late about this massive development. I think it's been carved up, is my own opinion. I can't say that for sure, I just have a horrible feeling that that's the case. I saw plans 2 or 3 years ago of a massive red blotch across Moreton-in-Marsh, the development. It's quite frightening. But I think that if the people are elected and they feel that their re-election is a problem, they might listen. I don't know. I hope I'm wrong about all this.
I mean, arguably that's why they put all the houses in Moreton, Michael, because then they don't have to annoy Liberal Democrat councillors across the whole of the district. They can just annoy one here.
Yeah, I mean, there's
I'm sure
lots
he's
of
never
ways
elected.
of looking at this. I mean, if we get known as the people who fight developers, and again I'm across the floor a bit now, if you get they will sidestep you, and when you were going to have a horrible development, if you'd been working with them, you could have got a livable development. And that's a bit like the sword of Damocles, that what do we do? This is going to happen, do we fight it? Do you see where I'm coming from? It's a political problem.
Yeah.
So the 106, I mean, I'm coming from Birmingham, I'm talking about, it's a massive stick. If you're going to do this, you're going to do school. It's the same story, just on a massive scale. And I hate to say, look at Birmingham at the moment. Just look at it.
And I think one of the points you made is quite important, as to the, not necessarily done deal, but I think that there are things that have happened that we are not aware of and haven't been fed the information of that have driven that. And that is the Sheilas, and that is the Sheila that was done a little while ago, and the redoing of another Sheila without knowing what the previous one was.
Yeah.
Somebody clearly knows, and
I think
Angus referred in another meeting, out of the council meeting, about the issue of knowing that certain local landowners has already offered up land for things. So, you know, CDC knows that this is the case, but they've not been letting this information out with regards to the Sheila. And it's that drives the ability for them to say, oh, if they want to give up the land, we can build it on there, because it's outside the A1B, let's do the Eastern Moreton, blah, blah, blah. It's an easy option. I think that's possibly the case.
But coming back to the value of land, I mean, I'm talking 20 years ago, selling it some land, 2 million an acre, 20 years ago, right?
Yeah,
you think the cost of that land would have been minimal. So the amount of money we're talking about is phenomenal. So it's really a question that I wouldn't want. I would like to see Moreton Town Council, we are elected to represent those of the town of Moreton-in-Marsh, and we've got to not make ourselves the enemy to a developer. Now, this is a tricky thing. You're going into battle, but you're not. you've got to be very, very careful, because it's like in a war. What was your enemy yesterday is your friend tomorrow. We're trying to get information, but I have a horrible feeling that the deal is done, and one half of me says we should stand up and protect ourselves. These are our rights. We've bought a house here. We want a life for our children, grandchildren, everything. Why shouldn't we fight for it? Well, the other half of that is, if it's already a done deal, you could end up worse than if you didn't. Now, it's a bit like catch-22.
Well, we have to be certainly pragmatic about it, and that's where I think there's a difference in us. We can use information that comes from a pressure group, because if it's to a certain extent gives you an indication, a background of the general feelings of your population that you're representing, to do all the conventional responses.
Yeah.
But that doesn't stop other groups actually trying to provide that sort of more emotional pressure as it goes along. And I actually don't have
I think we've got to try and talk about the BBC trying to be unbiased. We're trying to give a load of people, proletariat, whatever you call it, information, unbiased point of view. Everybody says this is wrong. Well, I as a sort of businessman, always tell them, say, well, where's your documentary evidence first? I feel that it's wrong. It sounds wrong. It sounds terrible. But this can go in a lot of directions, and we've got to steer the ship so that we're working with these people. I'm not trying to avoid the answer.
I think you're right. The conventional response from the town council,
the conventional response
from the town council would be fine, but we're not talking about the issue. We're talking about enabling others to do perhaps a more non-conventional response themselves, but at the same time providing us with some basic information that gives us a pointer as to which.
I'm going to short circuit it, because I think this is a very direct question being asked: would we front it? And I don't think, based on much of what you've said, it's appropriate that we front it.
I think that's probably.
Bob
and I have been involved in this, by the way.
Yes, can I go around? Gina, is there anything you want to say on this?
No, I'm listening. I didn't put my hand up.
No, I'm going around to ask you the opportunity to talk.
All right. Not yet, no.
Bob, you're saying about, you did say that you had an interest.
Yes, in 12B, I'm one of those involved in the group looking to
try and get a group of people
to assess what the local reaction is.
Yeah.
We have a mind that it would be negative, but we don't know. So we don't want to go down. I think if we use the word poll or something, we become very specific, and we don't want to go down that route. So we don't want to go down. This is a very informal survey of people's response reaction to the local update as it is. Some people may very well like it with other things on it, but it's very specifically as it is. That's the question that's being posed. And for a lot of the reasons that Michael's pointed out, I don't think it's appropriate for us, because we do have to be cognizant of the fact that we potentially do have a role to play in whatever it is decided.
It would be a conflict of interest for me.
I get the balance. Matt, did you want to add anything further?
So that's on point one.
Yeah.
So we're just talking about point one.
Yeah, I mean, I'm like Bob, have been involved with the various individuals, obviously, especially Neil. But I think Neil's point, that the first one is quite specific, that, and I have an awful lot of sympathy with it, which is why I've been involved, which is that if we essentially get on the pitch with CDC, there is zero chance we're going to win. And I agree with Michael, but an awful lot of this has been decided already. And therefore, I think Neil's perspective, and I'm very persuaded by it, is if we are going to reject this, we can't play by the CDC's rules. And that's, therefore, you've got the language of things like direct action. We want to get some information, hence the vote. I think, agree with Michael and Bob that I don't know it's the best. I don't think the council is necessarily the best front for that. Partly for the reason that Eileen has mentioned and Bob has mentioned, also partly because you know, we are a council. We're unlikely to be able to move at the speed and with the agility that a pressure group can. I think we can work very closely with them. I think we can get a lot of very good information. I think we can share a lot of good information. But I suspect both for us and for that action group, it would be better if it's not led by the council.
Right, so I'm gone.
Can I make just a point? In the past, I like planning consultants. They're very clever, good people, and they've charged the earth. I don't know, part of me says, as a councillor, I want the best result for Moreton, but we're not the right vehicle. But we give donations to all sorts of people for doing all sorts of things at the moment. But if it was to assist, I mean, planning consultant, what they said, £5,000, you go and get one now. Yes, I'll come with £5,000 first, then he's on your side. Now that's life, unfortunately. But we need one of these type of people to help guide whoever is going to front this through it, because it's a minefield. You know, you've got to live it, development.
Yeah. With what I think we're contemplating is that this is very much an emotional and media fronting approach campaign, not necessarily dotting the I's and crossing the T's on planning policy.
Well, no, what I'm saying is you've got to understand the rules of the game you're getting into, because it's massive.
I think Neil's idea is you just throw the rules out and you just do different stuff.
But it's just whether you have somebody who could just give a guide. And
that may be useful for us as a council.
My point is, if I was on the other side at the moment, I would know where all these sites are that I want to develop, and I would want to protect them. Now, we've all got eyes and ears, right? It's not impossible to find out what's going on, and I'm not suggesting, because people are being very careful to protect that, and somebody must be thinking, why? What's going on over there? Do you hear where I'm coming from?
Sure.
That we need to be as clever as they are, and they're very, very clever.
Yeah, I think you're right, and I think we already know that there are people trying to sort of brag that they've already sold land to levels. Jean, do you want to say that?
Yes, I have a question. Could a formalised campaign group or pressure group, whatever they want to call as residents, can they apply to this council for a grant? Just like you got the Christmas Lights Committee that apply for grants.
Only if they have a designated bank account for a group, they could, yes. An individual couldn't do it.
So I think we've got the answer then.
So yeah, I mean, it's possible for anybody that is an official group to say form in that way could ask them, but I think I'm getting a feeling then there's going to be a consensus that as far as fronting any direct action campaign from the town council, that really would not be viewed as the best way, or the SARS doing it. I still carry on thinking that I don't have an issue in principle of trying to support somebody to do a slight job for us in trying to ask the people what they feel about something in particular. So from that aspect, I don't have a problem that if a group is formed, if they come up with a very specific way of asking a question and a plan that I think the council could be happy with, would we then feel more inclined to support, because we would want to be able to use that to confirm our responses to anything in the future? Would that be a different issue?
My dilemma with that is that if the council funded that, it would have predetermined the council's position, depending on what the question was that was asked, or how we were approached from an it might.
Does it matter?
It does matter to me personally. My view is that it's, as Michael's saying, you have to be extremely careful in terms of how you're regarded, and I'm not opposed to a pressure group or a group doing what's suggested and getting the views and things like that. And I think that's a fair call. But
I can't judge it at this moment until, you know, if somebody was to come to ask for support for that campaign, I'd need to look at the request before I commit myself on that.
Yeah. Jean?
Are you referring to a grant application when you're saying?
Any
request for assistance.
Okay, so just having just a thought, Neil, I'd like to address this to you. The Nolan principles. Because the campaign can be emotive, I feel reluctant to be, does that make sense? Because I'm then associated with because I'm a councillor, does that make sense? As an individual, as a resident, then, you know, I'm not accountable. But because I am a councillor and there's Nolan principles, I've been in a position where, where there was behaviour that I thought would threaten my position, how I was viewed as a councillor, and I removed myself because I have to live to a standard. So I feel as a council, we are, as dysfunctional as we are, as a council we have a duty to be seen to be following the Nolan principles. If that be a fair way of saying, I think another way of saying why, in my view, why I would be reluctant for as a council to be involved as a councillor. Does that make sense?
Yeah,
understand that. Yeah. I just want to address you personally rather than as if you're not in the room.
Can I make a suggestion? Yeah, you've heard the conversation.
Yeah.
You've listened clearly to the way people are thinking. I would like to say as a formal response to the correspondence to make a proposal that at this point in time the council would feel unable to fund any direct action in this format, but the level of assistance and support to anything would be entirely dependent on a really thought out process and questions to ask the population before doing so. Would that be a fair comment to make at this point in time?
Just to Jean's point, in terms of this group requesting funding from the council, clearly they would need a bank account. Is a grant application the only way that happens, or is there multiple routes?
Well, I think there's probably different ways of doing it, but what I'm trying to say is that any assistance that we would give would be entirely dependent on a different rationale and timing of what we understand at the present point in time.
So we have to be very clear what actually was being asked for,
what was
the
being
question
asked,
might
who it's
be.
going to go to, exactly what the costs involved are, etc., what the outcome, what they aim to achieve is. Because if it's not going to inform us as a town council to make our own considered view of either changes in the planning situation or another consultation, the Regulation 19 issue that's going to pop up once we get the response from this one. And we could consider that the population would want to, the pressure group would want to work once the response from the Regulation 18 consultation comes out, then that's a different time. At the moment, I don't think we can do it in this format. I don't think we can front it as it's a town council-led pressure group. That would be a no-no. But I don't think we should shut the door the possibility of assisting the actual process to glean information that would help us in the general response that we would want to make as representatives of the community.
But it might not be the financial support, it may
Yeah,
be
it might be a
different way.
It might be a different way.
Could we say that we are
But I thought we said that they could apply for a grant.
Yes,
Well, they could,
but they could,
but
they
doesn't
could
mean to
ask
say that
us
that
for
would
any
be
support
approved.
if they wanted
Yeah.
to. It
Using
could be in any
emphasis.
format. So
Yeah.
we don't know
We-
until we see what it is that's requested.
Yeah.
That's all I'm saying. It doesn't always have to be financial assistance. It
No,
can
but that was
be
what
something
was, I think, suggested. It was
They
the
suggested
fund
no
a
change
survey
and any
in the second
assistance
point.
would be dependent on a different situation. I don't think the members are particularly against what in principle what you're trying to establish, but in the nature of our structure and what we're meant to do, I think it's a bit difficult to do it in that way. And I think I would suggest go away, get your group together and think very long and hard how best to do that. And I think you've got moral support, if not direct spoken support, and certainly we couldn't be seen to be fronting it in that format.
Okay.
Are you happy with
I
that?
think that's very clear. I will do exactly as you suggested. I think the really important part of all of this is that we find out the true feelings of the population. A survey, by its very nature, will not reach every person or every household, and having worked in surveys for 50 years, then the whole purpose of a survey is you get a proportional response, and you can then use statistical analysis to make sure that proportional response is representative.
We took exactly the same view by opening up a public open session for people to come, so that we could not only listen but also attempt to help people to answer against a very difficult process that we were faced with. And as I said last night, we would hope that people have responded in as many numbers as we could.
Yeah.
Because I think we get the gist of what people feel about this.
I think you would need to be deaf, dumb and blind not to get the way people feel about it.
Are we happy with that? Are you happy to be able to construct that from what it said? So,
I didn't catch this one, just the first statement at this point in time, we will be able to front page. Direct action campaign, and then, what did you say?
basically, that we would, at this point in time, not be able to consider any assistance, but maybe in the future, once whatever group has established exactly what their aims are and the processes in doing so. Yeah.
Can I request that a grant application be sent to Neil by email, please? Can I request that a grant application?
We will know where their grant applications are.
Well, it's
not appropriate because we haven't got a bank account. So.
No, but then the form, well, it's on the website anyway, the council website. I just thought it was a matter of courtesy, so when they needed it, they had a copy.
I appreciate the courtesy, but we can deal with that.
Yeah, okay.
Thank you.
Okay, I propose that as a response to the member of the public that's written in. Can I have a seconder? No?
Second.
Yeah, well, those in favour?
I'm only going to abstain because I'm involved in it. So.
Okay. For those against? Abstentions? 2. Thanks. Thanks, Neil.
Thank you.
Thanks, Neil.
Cheers.
Thank you all.
See you then.
Can I go back to the agenda, please?
Thanks, everybody.
Thanks.
Thanks.
Apologies, we're having to go.
Can we approve the list of payments? Does anyone have any comments before doing so? Did everybody note the additional payment that Alexa had sent round to everybody?
Yeah.
So if everyone's happy, I'm happy to propose. Anyone second?
Yeah.
Matt? MB, those in favour? 5. Those against? Any abstentions?
1 abstention.
1 abstention. Secondly, delegating the renewal in insurance to the clerk. As the quote wasn't received in time for the agenda, so on the 1st of June, be based on the criteria agreed by the council previously. I don't see a problem with that. Does anyone else?
Just want to pick up
Just
Chaz's
Chaz's
point earlier on around the volunteering.
Oh yes, yeah. It doesn't actually mean
No.
to pick
It was to
volunteers.
take them off the
It's to take the
employer's
employer's liability out, but leave the public
Public liability
liability
issue
in.
for volunteers, so they're still covered. We made sure of that. Yeah. So I propose we delegate renewal. Anyone second me?
I'll second
Bob? All those in favour? It's unanimous. Thank you. Just to note that the solicitor confirmed that they have what they require to allow distribution of the UU funding, so we wait to see what happens with that. Note the officer deciding whether the clock tower element will be given direct to the two resale board trustees, and once they've decided on that, there will be a third draft agreement to be drawn up for review and approval.
What's the amount? Have they given the figures?
That would be 100k, I think.
I think that they are at present considering that.
That's all originally agreed, well, most recently agreed that it would be 100k. 100,000.
So all 100,000 is for the clock tower?
So there would be
Yes.
100,000 towards Leesdale, Mike and Clock Tower, and 150 for the transport hub. That was the split that was
The clock tower, it needs that much money spent on it?
Yeah,
Gonna be
yeah.
more than
There's
that.
got to be scaffolding put up to dismantle it, and then the clock faces go for repair, and the woodwork needs repairing.
Everything's going to be done off
And then
site,
put back
there'll
up.
be
Yeah.
That's what I
recharged.
thought, yeah. And then we
I
get
don't
back
remember
to
it being that
future
much. I remember being
arriving
mentioned
the,
as a much lower figure.
No, I put the paper in for the clock tower to go to CDC for 100k. That's why I think.
Was that with the costing attached to it, or was it just a figure?
I can't remember now, but I know that the estimated cost would have been around 100k, but CDC wanted the split in the money to go more to the transport hub than the hall.
So CDC accepted a paper without any costings?
No, because the planning officer at CDC has been working, I believe, with the trust to actually look at what the art of the possible is, because they need planning permission to actually do some of the work they're doing.
So when was this paper written?
My paper didn't cover that because I'm not a trustee, so I don't deal with the planning.
No, but you said you put a paper in to cover the
Yeah.
clock tower expenses, and you put 100k
No,
as the
I
figure.
put a paper in for the council to go forward to ask CDC. If you remember, the request was to ask them for 100k, to give them warning that we would be asking them for that money for the clock tower.
That was in December of last year. You put a paper
Yeah.
through. But I remember questioning, asking where was the costings for that.
Well, at the point, we were just alerting CDC to the fact that we would be requesting this money, and then during the discussions between the clerk and the legal officer at CDC, they were prepared then to be asked for costings.
I don't
Now,
believe,
I don't know what's happened.
CDC will pass any money over if they
Yeah.
decide to go through directly to the trustees rather than through the council that they'd agreed
Yeah.
previously in council. They're not going to give them a penny unless they get costings.
They definitely won't.
So where's the
No.
costings? My question,
So
where's the
I don't have
costings?
the costings.
So who provided the costings?
That will be
No,
between the
that will be
trustees and
between
CDC if they
trust.
decide to go direct to the
Yeah.
trustees.
So
If they decide
CD
to come to
I'm
us,
just trying to
we would have
understand. So
give it to them.
CDC, without costings, CDC have
No,
agreed to allocate 100,000
No,
of.
No,
they're,
they had
no,
already-
they're actually deciding, here is noticing that they're deciding whether to deal with the funding to us or to the trustees. If they decide to put it to us, we would have to give them costings. If they go to the trustees
The
trustees
will
will have to
them
give them
costings.
costings.
So the
It
figure will
won't
be
be with us.
decided by
CDC
by the
will
outcome of
be
the
deciding.
costings.
Well,
Yeah.
CDC, yeah.
So CDC will be deciding, but they haven't received the costings yet.
I
I
don't think
don't
that they've
know.
got all the detailed costings of any of the things yet.
Okay,
I
no,
don't
because
know
we're
that's
because we're
up to
saying
them.
here is 100,000 is what's going to be
We
transferred over.
envisaged a split because there was the issue of they wanted more out of the 250 to go to the transport hub. We know the transport hub's going to cost more than 150. We know the likelihood is that the tower and the renovations to the hall is going to certainly going to cost more than 100,000.
But we have
So their
surely we
process
have.
was what the issue was the first attempt at getting money for the purpose for the hall
Yeah.
was to go with the first work they would be doing, and that would be the renovation of the clock tower, because that's the logical strategic thing to do first. So they will need to produce all the costings to CDC before they give them a penny, as we would have to get it from the costings from them for us to give it to CDC before they even give us a penny. If it happened to come up to less than £100,000, they wouldn't give us £100,000.
Well,
They wouldn't give us or give the Reedsdale Hall.
£100,000. Of course they won't.
Yeah, I'm just trying to.
Because it's there for practical works. They're not going to give any money to anyone unless you can say what it's going to be for and how much it's
Yes,
costing.
it's got to be spent against. It's
So
got to
any
be.
thought that anything's going to happen...
I understand that. That's why I'm
Yeah.
asking where's the costings
Yeah.
if they've agreed to 100,000.
Yeah.
But you're
But
saying
what
that
they have.
they have
So I know
this
that
is
since we've
deciding.
been looking at it, the trustees have been unilaterally talking to the specialists to get all those figures and get their ducks in a
It
row.
may cost.
It's probably going to cost more than
May cost more than
100,000.
So the storm damage is separate to the renovation.
Storm
Yeah,
damage
because we've
is a
given
totally different
40,000
issue
for the
because-
storm.
because
No,
we haven't yet. Because I don't think we have yet used the storm damage
it's
money.
not been
Because
it's
that's
not
not
been
what we
allocated.
have.
But that's what's been allocated, 40,000 towards the storm damage repair, because we didn't retain any of that to cover the scaffolding costs.
That is the amount
So that's the
that's
storm
provided by
damage.
the
The storm
insurance
damage
company.
is separate to
Yeah.
the renovation. I understand
Well,
the
we haven't
tower needs to be done
allocated the
first.
whole 40,000.
But it's all going to be done at the same time.
Yeah.
The work will all be done at the
Well,
same
that's
time.
logical because of the scaffolding
Yeah,
costs,
yeah,
so on
yeah.
and so forth.
Yeah. So when I wrote the paper, I said, you know, we should be alerting CDC to the fact that we will be asking them for a 100k, and that we knew that CDC, in order to give us that money, or to give the trust that money, or to do whatever they wanted, they would always need to, it would always have to be spent against an invoice, so that they would have to do that, or we would have to do that as a council, because, you know, that's the way it
Yeah, so
is.
it's not, it can't go for anything unless it's definitely for works that are going to be costed up. It's just not going to happen. They're not going to do anything like that.
But can you understand, because the word here used is element, it doesn't say restoration, it says element. What does element mean? That can mean anything, that can mean any part of the repair. Is that what it means? Is the clock tower repair as a whole? What does element refer to?
It's the Reedsdale Hall clock tower element as opposed to the transport hub element.
Yeah.
Ah, right, okay,
Don't
okay.
forget, the original agreement was to support the renovation of the hall and to deal with the development of a transport hub. At that point in time, any issues of what it specifically it was for hadn't been thought out. The logic now, is the way it's gone, is that you ask for the money for the first piece of work they're doing, and that happens to be the clock tower, because that's the logical way to go through it. So it's the clock tower money that they will be asking for the money for. I'm sure it's going to end up being more than 100,000. So when they ask for that money, they will show the costs involved for that part of it. If it wasn't, they would be asking for 90,000, and then later they might even ask for something else if they wish. But that might change the elements, but I don't believe that's the case. We've given a ballpark figure of 100,000 to make that suggested split from the 150 and 100. And they're simply going, first of all, to ask for the money, logically, for the clock tower, because it's the first piece of work they're going to do. And they won't pass any money unless they know it's going to be costed.
Well, they won't, that's it.
Of course they won't.
Spend against the customer.
And it is just to note that fact. So can I move on to something that's a bit more bothering to me, and I need a bit more explanation of exactly the involvement that I had on this, and that is this bloody edge system, as to what this impact, because this seems horrendous and far too onerous than we should be dealing with. Can you explain that to us?
Well, it's difficult to explain really. It took me a while to get my head around it. But effectively, Edge have introduced multi-factor authentication on the login to the finance software. We have one councillor's licence, so any councillor that wants access to the finance software just uses that login. Now that we've got this MFA, we have to attach a phone number. So each councillor that wants access has to have their phone number logged to the MFA. And I don't know if anyone's actually set up MFA before, but you sit there and you've got your phone next to you at the time, and you get to the page where it says, you know, give us your number, and then it sends a code and everything. In order for us to set that up, like if we were to give all councillors access, you would all have to be there, ready to receive a code, and then contact us and let us know. So any councillor that wants to have access, and then if any councillor leaves, we'll have to go through the whole process again. Because it's a shared password, if a councillor leaves, we have to reset the password.
So is the
and then
solution
set it up
every
again.
councillor has to have their own password and access?
But that would be a single licence for each councillor, so that would be £67 a year.
Each, and that's bloody stupid.
It is bloody stupid.
Do we all need a licence to financial software? I mean, I'm not a finance
No,
manager.
but you all want access, it depends on whether you want to.
It's viewing only access, isn't it? So
It's
you
view
can't do
only,
it.
it's reports only, yeah.
So even reports only, it would be £67 a year
Yeah,
per council.
that's how they make their money.
Now, to be quite honest, I can't help thinking that if anyone's desperate to actually want to do that, they come in the office and do it here. and you don't have a separate licence to actually access it elsewhere?
Oh, you do.
Well, how am I accessing them on Thursday?
Well,
the
for
audit?
example, when you come in on Thursday,
Yeah.
but the staff will have their own individual access, so we can go into it on a laptop or computer, and you can look over our shoulder, and we can go to the pages and things that we want to see.
Right.
Which, I mean, obviously, we can do that if you're doing a quarterly check or something, but if there's a councillor that wants to sort of interrogate the finances in great detail, we don't have the time to sit,
Yeah.
and obviously the access we have allows people to make changes, so we can't just log in and give a
You
councillor
can't
access.
leave you the free to run on it.
Yeah,
So that,
You'll be doing a post office job.
Oh, yeah, definitely. I'll be getting that Tesco milk money, that's for sure.
That's
Back
fine.
to you.
Two-factor ID, surely they have a record of your phone number and then it's your phone that pings.
Well, there will
So
be a
yes.
different login, right?
Yeah.
Login reference as well.
Yeah.
So the login reference and the phone number will go hand in hand.
Yeah, so there's a
Send
page
you a code.
where you input the mobile phone numbers, and you can
It
input
almost makes
you
it
can input multiple phone
useless
numbers,
for councillors to use.
but
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
just the timing of it and the fact that it has to be updated every time somebody goes.
Yeah.
It's,
Yeah, that thing's
Now the scary bit, of course, is they're bringing this in because something's
Something's
badly
gone
wrong
wrong,
somewhere.
Yeah,
Stop hacking.
yeah, something's gone
I
wrong.
suspect that's the case, and it's a nice little earner on the side to do
Could
it.
we have a limited number of
Yeah, that's what I'm
licences
wondering.
that
Maybe the
people
chair and
can, you know,
deputy chair of the finance committee, maybe.
the chair or whoever. I mean, you don't need to be on finance, but you might still want to access.
It's a sensible solution. That's a suggestion.
You got brainwave, Chaz?
Well, if you allow me to speak, buy an extra phone, keep it in the office, sort it out.
Not with multiple phones.
No, you
No,
only
no, no.
need one.
It's
Just one other phone.
You just need an authenticator running on your phone. Whoever wants access,
Yeah.
they use that phone.
So it's a councillor and phone, but you'll have to do it.
so you'd have to come into the office to do
Well,
it.
you'd have to go in and still have to go in and do it.
Yeah.
Yeah, you would have to do that.
That's okay though, and that's a good suggestion. It certainly, I mean, that would be a good suggestion in the interim rather than buying £67 licenses forever.
I just think it's absolutely stupid and ridiculous to spend loads of it just on the odd chance that one of us might want to interrogate a bloody report.
Well, but it doesn't mean that anyone who
Because
does want
if I
to
wanted
come in
to,
and
if I wanted a report on something, I would ask the clerk, can I just get a report
Yeah.
on a minimum thing? I wouldn't ask an unreasonable request, I would ask it simply. And then in due time, whenever they have the time to do it, I'd expect them to be able to show it me.
I mean, they're generally the reports that you get anyway.
Yeah, so I think
Yeah.
it's just over the top for us to.
I mean, one thing, of course, is you can download some of those reports into Excel anyway, which is what I was using it for to play with. So
Yeah.
as soon as you
Just
download
the authentication code, I have had, and my eyesight is terrible, I say, I do have difficulty with my mobile phone. I had to phone a hospital, would you believe, recently, and I had to get an authentication code, which was in hieroglyphics.
Wow.
And you had so many seconds to transfer that back into where you were and put it in. I just say, if it's hieroglyphics, forget
You
it.
don't want it.
No, it's just coming through as a
No,
normal
I'm just
number.
saying, that mine was in hieroglyphics. The only way I could do it was to screenshot it,
Yeah, and then
go into the pictures
horrible.
and copy it and paste it.
Horrible.
This is only an item to note, so you can't make a decision on it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
well, I think you get the view that we need to find a way around it.
I think the chair of finance will definitely potentially need I think we should, you know,
Do you want to refer it to the
somebody.
finance committee to,
to see what the solution can be.
in the next
We
council
know-
meeting to make a decision on it?
Can we note Chaz's idea as well?
Yeah.
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 When's the next finance? Is that for
it's
next
coming
full
out.
council?
No, it's not actually, it's just after it.
Yeah,
It's all in the same, it's in the same.
Yeah,
Same.
this, they have the discussion on that, I don't do that, we don't.
Well, if we go and end up maybe going to finance to make
Well,
decisions.
can I ask a
then
very
probably
simple
anything.
question whilst we're all here? Who has been into Edge since the start of the year?
I've not been in this year, I've
No.
attempted it last year,
No.
last financial year.
Jean, have you not used it?
No, I haven't got been able to log in. I contacted them, but I haven't followed it through.
So I've not been in it, but I was in it
Yeah.
for the previous financial year issues. So before November time last year, I was in it, just downloading stuff, and I pretty much only needed to download something once, and then took it away and fiddled with it. Maybe we don't need it.
Or maybe we just need one and we decide on
If it's a
method.
case of access, is it not possible that if any of us came in with a laptop and entered into it, and we used a phone that has, and we put in the phone that has your log, that has your access things, although that's no good, because it opens up the Pandora's box, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
We need,
Two logins
we
and
need
one-
one,
sorry, and one
we
phone
need
number.
one license to enable people to genuinely have an attempt
Yeah.
to read without amending the edge system.
Mm.
Yeah, you've got the councillor's one already.
Yeah, but it's the
No, it's
authentication
telephone
method.
number against that one.
Yeah.
Yeah, so you need a telephone number against the councillor's one that
Yeah.
you can all use. I think that's what Sarah's saying.
Yeah, well, that's Jazz's suggestion.
Yeah, so that was-
Can I just ask
Yeah.
one question with my suggestion? Can I just ask, you've got 3 people using it at the moment. My understanding is you've only got one council phone, unless that's changed.
Then
So-
we're getting another one.
Okay. Is the expectation that you use your personal phones as well?
I use mine.
Okay.
I'm the only one that uses mine.
Right, so the people who have a council phone and a personal phone, they've got 2 phones. So you could actually have the person that has access, that needs access, like the clerk, uses their personal phone for authentication, if she's willing to do so, and the council phone is used for the read-only access
No,
phone.
because if a councillor is trying to do that, and then I've got the mobile phone.
No,
they want
you
to
have
go off,
the read-only
and I get
access.
the code.
Yeah.
Oh,
I've
Yeah,
got a phone in on
okay.
my day off to let you know what
Yeah,
the
because
code is.
we're not talking about a landline, are we? We're talking about a mobile phone.
Yeah.
So is the
Yeah.
issue using our personal mobile number with
It's
the authenticator?
individuals using phones and having to have an individual licence.
You have to
Yeah,
just
you
have
use your
to
own
having a
phone.
floating phone.
Yeah, you have to
It's a sort of floating phone thing.
So it's a license per councillor, am I understanding that correct?
It could be, or it could be a single license attached to
Okay,
a phone that's in the office.
Push it to FG.
Can we-
Look at it.
Yeah, we'll push it to
Whether
FG,
we-
and people just have to realise that they won't have to be able to have access or anything like that, and then they get on my shoulders, and I'll do so for anything.
Or-
I
Yeah.
might have an old phone.
There is a
And we'll also have a search to see if we get any old phones.
Yeah, I know I've got
Yeah.
two.
Yeah. Personally, I would prefer not to.
Right, can I move on, please? F, increase budget to deal with the
Why do
anniversary.
we need to increase the budget?
You only
I think we just
You're
said
over.
£100, and it's
Sorry?
it's more
Yeah,
than.
you're over.
Yeah, but
25
we're going to be
quid
massively
over.
under the insurance budget.
Sorry?
We're going to be massively under the insurance budget.
What do you mean under the insurance budget?
When in our insurance number this year, we...
Yeah, but that's not the point. The budget for this.
Yeah.
Oh, I see, sorry,
Yeah.
sorry, I see what you mean. Sorry, stop.
Yeah, we said-
Sorry, I see what you mean, yeah.
I'll first and say, it's daft, I'm happy to propose
Yeah,
to increase
fine.
that, yeah.
Yeah.
Someone
Yeah,
second me, Eileen, right, those in favour? Yeah, thanks.
This is item F, 6F.
Yeah, that's unanimous, thanks. Recommendations from the Allotments and Cemeteries Committee. Purchase of materials to renovate the pillbox, £230, and to enter the sites into the Moreton Show allotment competitions, £10 a site, £30.
Presume we always do that, don't
We usually do that.
Yeah.
I'm happy to propose we do that.
I'll
So,
second
yeah.
you on that.
Eileen, those in favour?
Yeah. Is that A? We're just doing A1 and 2.
A,
Yes.
A1 and 2. Yeah. Those against? Abstention?
I'm abstaining because I've got allotment plot.
Abstention 1. Okay. Consider renewing the membership to National Allotment Association. Happy to propose that.
Are they already, is
Yeah,
that
what do
another
we-
usual thing?
What do we get for that?
What do we get for that, Sarah?
Do you get?
Trees. What do we get from that?
Teresa?
Well, because
We are part of the National Allotment Association because we've got a separate group set up for our tenants. So
It's one of those things of advice and knowledge for everyone to know exactly what's going on in the
Is that where the cheaper seats come from?
Yeah, so you pay £5.
Yeah.
So the National Allotment Association,
Yeah.
that's the national organisation. So a group of tenants decided they want to be part of it. So they set up Moreton-in-Marsh Town Association.
Yeah.
And we're part of it because of that. Because we're part of it because we've got 2 allotment sites.
Okay. I mean, look, it's tiny now.
So you do with Moreton-in-Marsh Allotment Association. So you pay £5 a year.
Yeah.
£3 goes to the National Allotment Association and they keep 2.
So why is the council being asked to pay £66?
Because we're the corporate membership.
Okay, so there's a corporate membership and then there's individual.
Yes, so you pay
Croft.
your £2. So
Right.
if you're thinking we've got 130 tenants,
Yeah.
that Moreton-in-Marsh pays that on your behalf for them.
Okay. Okay, fine.
But that's up to you whether you want to pay it or not.
No, that makes sense. If there's a slightly different type of membership, that makes complete sense.
I'm proposing that. Anyone second me?
I can't because I'm...
Well, you can, because no one's...
Okay.
I would suggest that you just ask for a dispensation, Jean, because everyone else...
Jean's got a form I gave it to her last time.
Yeah.
Right.
Jean, seconding. Those in favour? I think it's unanimous.
No, I haven't put my hand up because it's about the
So
allotments.
you're not seconding?
Oh, no, because it's about the allotments, so I'm...
Okay, Bob seconded. Those in favour? 1 abstention. Yeah. Agreed date for personnel. Yeah, great fun. Can we just have a confirmation of who's on personnel?
Some previous minutes.
I do. Matt, did you come on?
I did.
And I think we carried a vacancy.
Yeah, we do. Yeah.
Right. So. Dates, people.
What's the easiest way to do this?
Well, when is there not a meeting?
Well, we've got the week of towards the end of June is like before we've got council, planning and finance. So the week before is going to be really busy getting stuff out to those.
You mean the week of the 17th will be a bit difficult? Is that right? Is the week of the 24th, which is the week when we've got town council around?
Yeah, yeah.
So the week of the
So
17th.
it needs to be after.
So you need to be the 10th.
Yeah. So
17th, 18th,
Things happening that week. We could have looking at, yeah.
I've got planning on the 24th for council on the 25th.
Yeah.
Yeah, and finance committee is on the 27th.
Could we do something on the 18th, or do you think the whole of that week will be too hectic?
Teresa's just fine.
What's the problem with the previous week? 17th to 21st, what's up with that one?
Because we've got 3 meeting packs to get out.
Oh, right.
We've
Yeah,
agendas.
yeah.
We can tell if there isn't anything on board. The week of the 17th, just got NDP on the 17th, but I don't know if that's going ahead, whether they changed
No,
the
that's
dates.
the week, but that's the week that we're
Okay.
doing.
The agenda, so the week of the 10th,
Agendas.
there's nothing on the board.
No.
So 10th to 11th could be done.
I'm signing myself in Crete, I'm afraid.
Okay.
Well, no, I'm sorry.
Oh, we could, well, we could do the week of the 17th. Because did we get the agenda out the week before, so it's
It's
not
just
like
a
we get
case
the
of,
agenda out for work.
yeah, it's just a case of having a meeting.
And it's mostly, the agenda's basically doing all the policies that we couldn't do at the last meeting, but it's also the annual appraisals need to be finalised.
Yeah.
Would the 18th work?
Tuesday,
Yeah,
because that's
18th Tuesday.
Who else is on personnel that's here? It's just us 3 that's here.
Mm.
Was Oliver still on personnel?
Isn't Jean on?
Is Jean on personnel as well?
Yeah.
So,
Does 18th work for you, Jean?
Yep.
the 18th then.
Alright.
Okay, let's go with the 18th and hopefully it sorts out.
Great.
Great. Lisa Hall, note the paper licence renewed. Maybe 2 or 3 more weeks required, depending on what goes on.
yeah, that renewal was about 28 days in the end.
Right, so that's not working. Okay, bat survey didn't find any bats, supplies. So I think as Nick was saying, that they're hoping that all the netting and everything else happens quite quickly. Noting the title transfer, again, that we heard yesterday, it's already gone anyway.
Yeah, can I make a point that that should be the date by which any scaffolding costs that the council pays out of this current arrangement ceases?
Sorry, say that again, Bob.
That is the date by which the payment of scaffolding costs under the current arrangement that
Which-
the council has.
Which date?
Which day?
The 13th of May.
Well, you're,
We're gone past.
so
Well, we haven't had we haven't had a
You're-
bill
okay,
in
so you're
latest
paying at the
charges.
moment because the contract for that scaffolding is between the council,
Right.
not as custodian trustee, but just between the council
Well, we
and the
look to
scaffolding
move it
people.
then.
But obviously the money is coming out of the 63 that was set aside.
So it's coming out
So
of
it's not
the
coming out of
reserves
your-
for them anyway. It's not coming out of-
No, that was going to be up to the date. The money that went with the endowment was to be paying for some of these issues.
How are you going to pay for the scaffolding then?
Well, we need to transfer the responsibility for that particular contract to the Redacted.
And the money?
The money's already gone, it's in the 88,000.
But then they only answer out of the 60, whatever's left out of that.
Well,
Bring
then
the
we go
stuff
into the
to-
grant application
Yeah.
process.
But wouldn't that be pointless?
Sorry.
No, on the
Especially
basis
bearing in
that,
mind
that if we are as close as maybe we like to think we are with the netting, then it would all come out in the wash in terms of that, but we don't control that process. It's now down to the Redacted to control the timing of that process.
Well, all I can say is, what was the date Nick was thinking that it would be done?
10th.
Was week commencing the 10th, the scaffolding licence expires on the
June.
11th.
Yeah, right.
Well,
Yeah.
to be quite honest, I think you'd be unlikely to get any change of contract done in the time to do it anyway.
How long's our contract? Because there's the pavement licence, and then maybe 2 to 3 months, and then there's the actual contract, I guess, with the scaffolding contract.
Yeah, I mean, it's just rolling, really. And the other thing that you do need to think about is the cost of the scaffolding coming down. There's going to be a cost there.
Might not be.
Well, yeah, there seems to be a bit of debate about that, but the scaffolders have said, let us know when it needs to come down and we'll give you a price. So I'm anticipating that there will be a cost to it coming down.
Yeah, I did question the issue of whether that should.
So there's the pavement licence, and then there's the cost of the
So if we-
scaffolding.
if we stop-
places.
Yeah. My awkward thought was, well, if we just say, well, we don't want any more things, what are they going to do?
I've never heard of scaffolding being charged to take down.
Yeah.
Is we not? I mean,
No.
I've never taken
No.
scaffolding down. I've never had scaffolding, so I wouldn't know. But
I think they've had enough money out of us. How, just to Bob's point, what are the, it looks a lot cleaner if we are no longer paying for it. I think.
I mean, the earlier point of we're no longer custodian trustee, so in a way it has now gone. We have achieved what we set out to do, which was to give it the money to sail away into the distance to generate.
The only difficulty is the problem we had was setting it up and the contract being from us, wasn't
Yeah.
not necessarily on the issue of the custodian trustees.
No,
but that's
I
the same
appreciate the
issue
subtleties that we
in the
now
first place.
find ourselves in, but the point is we're now into a slightly different relationship. So we have a relationship with the scaffolders, but we don't have a relationship with the building that the scaffolding's on, so that's a bit of an oddball.
Well, like I said, I think you'd be pressed to try and change anything that's likely to be done before the dates that they think it's going to end up coming down.
Can we set a date?
Well, can we? Yeah, I was going to say if the alternative is too many balls being juggled and frustration issues, that actually the arrangement that we have by way of the scaffold being funded out of the current 63,000 reserves or whatever is left comes to an end on the, well,
Maybe it's the 10th of June or the 14th of June, which
can't
is
be
the
make a
moment.
decision on that because it's not.
not our decision.
on the
The
agenda.
one thing we did
decision.
do was made, and I stand corrected if that's not true, right? My understanding was we made a clear indication that that money would come out of those reserves for that purpose anyway. So we know where the allocated funds are in reserves that were meant to be covering that.
Yes, but it was to the point of the endowment. So,
Well, I
so
think that's-
clearly,
I
if
think
that
that's-
happened sooner, then there would be more in reserves for future requests for over the course of the next year, and less having been spent on the scaffolding because
Well, I
they've
think,
done the netting as quickly as possible.
I think that's different on the basis of the endowment figure, because the endowment figure was meant to be the basis of the lump sum that was left for dealing to help them to finance everything and go for the roofing, but that's because if not, it would have been, I don't know, a much different figure, wouldn't it, until... Anyway, I just think that,
Well,
that it's...
I think we need to
Right,
put in place
it's-
an
So it's
actual
funded
limit.
till the 11th of June, and it sounds like we might need an item on the next meeting.
Which would be after that, would be
Yeah,
Is
it's
there
not till
any
the 28th, is it?
indication that that deadline is going to move
The 11th being the
To
day after
actually-
the netting.
put something in place?
So remind me, when's the payment, this current payment licence, when does it expire?
The 11th of June.
All right. And
Because
what's
you've taken it up to the suggested
There's the
date.
11th of June, and then there's like, you sort of get five days.
Get breathing space.
Grace.
Five days after,
Okay.
if
So-
you just don't pay it and they don't
Yeah.
manage.
Yeah.
And just sorry, Sarah, that pavement licence, does that also include the cost of the scaffolding? Is that all wrapped
Yeah,
into
that's
this?
No,
just-
it's just the
to
license.
shut the license.
To shut the pavement in
Okay.
front of it down.
And then the rolling contract for the actual scaffolding itself, do you know when the next sort of, I don't know, the next tick over is? Is it monthly? Is it? Can we just give notice? How does it?
Yeah,
how
just
does
tell
it-
them.
We
Yeah.
can just only pay them monthly.
We pay them monthly.
Yeah.
We've actually had an invoice, haven't we?
Well, I guess.
Can we give
Well,
them
it's the end of
notice?
June then, won't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, can we give them notice to say on the 15th of June, or maybe if it has to be the end of
They do
June?
it by the week, don't they?
Right.
They do it
Well, if it's there, we've got to ask.
I mean, they know, they're aware it's coming down to, because I've had that conversation with
Mm.
them,
Right.
that it's, you know, going to be coming down soon. We've been trying to
by.
sort
Right,
of-
so that'll be, well,
Probably speaks to them more than almost anyone else.
yeah.
Be a sad relationship to lose.
Well, the next council meeting is the
28th.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, if anyone wants to...
I thought it was the 20th, or
24th.
5th, wasn't it? I thought it
25th.
was
25th.
25th. Yeah, 25th.
Okay.
Things might be
So
resolved.
we-
Things
so
might
we
be
So it
resolved.
might be
around-
resolved by then, but if it's not, then.
Yeah, so.
Can we-
So we'll take it to the, what, 25th is a Tuesday, 4th, 21st, because they go by weeks, don't they, so we get to a Friday.
Well, at the moment, we're just noting the issues that we're stuck with, and Sarah's obviously ongoing, and we'll come back and let us know if the ballpark changes with that.
Because I think if it does change, to Bob's point, I think we, you know, just in the interest of, I think it needs to be a bit of a clean break
Yeah.
on that. Now it's no more us.
The issue really is considering the request for the hoarding to be used, and yes, I was
Yeah.
going to say, well, actually,
No. Can I just
go on then.
So, well, I've looked into this because you paid for the hoarding and the scaffolding and everything to go up, and you did that as effectively that was a gift to the Weasdale Hall. So the hoarding doesn't actually belong to them. You reclaim VAT on that.
Yeah.
It was a gift.
Right.
Okay.
I believe that to be
Okay.
different. And a point of order, because I think we've missed item D. But-
So you want another note, just to agree that the amount of 88's been transferred.
But I'd like to ask, why was the transfer, or why did the transfer happen on the 13th of May?
Didn't happen on
Because the
15th.
process was believed to be different. It was after the netting was removed.
That was the date that Roger gave me, and he said it's done now as of the 13th.
So you're putting this on the solicitor. Did he put it in writing?
What do you mean I'm putting it on?
No. So this is
Yes, I have an email from the solicitor which says it was done on the 13th of May.
Endowment's not.
We-
the
So why
endowment
has
isn't-
why is the
endowment
council led to
isn't linked the
believe?
Scaffolding.
Why was the council led to believe that the trustees needed to secure building insurance have the netting on the roof to secure any slippage, then get the scaffolding removed, to get the insurance, and then the CIO would be...
They managed to get insurance before.
They managed to get insurance before.
Sorry, say that again?
They managed to get insurance before the scaffolding was removed, before the need for the scaffolding to be removed.
Okay.
Which is why we were able to change our insurance arrangements to take the resale rule off it.
So, considering the request for the scaffolding and hoarding boards to be kept here, do we have the ability to hold them?
Also, the other point on that is they've been back in touch and said it's only required as a backup plan because Heritage Roofing think they can probably put it in their compound anyway, but if there's possibly an issue with that, it would only be a sort of a backup solution.
Do we think it would fit in here?
There's enough room now.
There's enough space out there. Yeah. I don't think that's a big problem. If it's required, I would propose. I'm quite happy to.
Do we have any minutes on the hoarding? Because I believe it to be, as former Councillor Allen had said in his contribution earlier this evening, that it was the council had purchased it.
The clerk has just told us
The
that
council purchased it and gifted it as part of the scaffolding.
Has it been minuted that we gifted it?
No, it hasn't been.
Why was the decision not taken? Because I believe it was to be.
Like that, but
because I was here before you joined the council. If you don't mind me saying, Sarah.
Do you want to own the scaffolding, the hoarding? Maybe you can. Maybe.
No, it's just a matter of what was discussed. I mean, if the decision's been changed, then say the decision's been changed. But that's not what we decided at the time that the scaffolding was purchased.
Can I make a proposal that whoever owns the bloody stuff, it goes into hoarding into a place if necessary, and they can use it if they need to use it.
100 quid's worth of scaffolding hoarding, I think definitely could keep all of that.
So, anyone second that?
I will.
Right. Those in favour? 4. Those against? 1 abstention. Right, considering to use the Coach Park compound for the clock tower works.
Do we know how long for? They do say up to 3 weeks.
Is it 3 weeks in September and then another couple of weeks in March
say
or something?
dates in March, does it?
I think I'm not knowing exactly how long they want it, but they will go round the annual fair, walk round to make sure the annual fair that's coming up, which is September.
Yeah, 3 weeks.
A further period in spring 25 for reinstatement.
Yeah.
You used to know how long that
Well, it
is.
would be about 3 weeks.
Right.
Possibly less. I don't know.
And
To be honest.
I think it might be less to put it back
Because
up than it is to take it out.
Yeah, maybe.
Because
I
the
don't
nature of not knowing what it's going to be like when they try and put it in.
Yeah.
So they're taking the tower off. Is that been?
Part of it.
Yes.
Yeah.
Is that an option or is that
Oh, I don't know.
mandatory?
Well,
That's
so I think they looked
that's
into
been
2
recommended by all
options.
the specialists because of the nature
You'd
of
have to
the
be
way
a
it's constructed.
structural
are they
engineer.
doing the fixing of it or the
It
renovation
is
just in
Yeah.
the car park, or are they?
No,
No,
that's
they're taking
just
it away
it's
off
going
the
off
site.
site and it will be done
So it'll
in
be
an
away.
indoor place.
It will be capped. It will be capped off.
But why
Until all the
does
stuff
it-
is-
Why do they need
why
a
do
car
they need
park?
it for
Because
3
they've got a crane
Yeah.
and then they've got a person who's got to take the elements of the clock away.
Then
So it's going to take 3 weeks for them to dismantle.
They might
Yes.
actually be
Touch it
doing
up.
some
Okay.
work.
And they'll do a
as
renovation
well.
of it
Right.
in the interior.
Yeah.
Yeah, because
Because
they've got to
the,
do the...
Waterproof.
Is it the flashing? Is that the lead?
Yeah.
The layer.
Yeah, the
Stuff
lead
that
stuff,
goes under
which
the
is
tower.
again where they'll probably
Yeah.
then end up
Yeah.
turning around and asking for the rest of the
The money, yeah.
storm damage money, because that's what that was meant to be for that element of it. And then they'll cap the top to make it completely waterproof, and then they'll redo it again when it all comes back in. But now we're taking part.
Okay.
Oh, wonderful though.
There's all
It's
good
hot.
stuff. It's
See?
As a business owner, that would prevent coaches stopping.
That's why one of the reasons they've moved it
That's
to
right.
September and they're not doing it in the middle of the summer.
Yes.
It's still, but September, if maybe we will
The
consult it.
alternative would be to close the road
Yeah.
Is that the only alternative? Because there's parking on the other side
or
of
close
the.
the other road.
No. So The coach park is
the goods they need to do it.
I think
Okay, because obviously you know more about this than I do, so I'm trying to understand
the
what's...
car park.
So the car park, so the coach car park, I believe, is what's said to be closed,
Yeah,
correct?
yeah.
So there's a toilet between the building, toilet block. So you're wanting to use that area.
They are wanting to use.
Okay, they're wanting to use. But
They
on the
need
front
to
of the
find
building,
you.
there's also parking bays there. There's more car parking bays on the high street than there is coach parking
The
bays.
clock's at the other end though, Jean, I think. The clock's at that end,
Yeah.
nearest the toilets, I
Aren't there
think.
some trees as well on that car park? There's some trees
There are
and they're
trees,
funny.
yeah.
It's
Otherwise it makes way
To the
more
front,
sense.
are you referring to the front of the car parking space?
if you where it tapers down and goes past the
Yeah,
cheese shop,
there's two,
that
there's
bit
two
there's
trees.
two trees.
All the joint workings of the contractors and the roofers have said they will need a compound on site to be able to do the work.
Does that mean the toilets will need to be closed as well?
No, I think
Well,
they'll
they may be, depending on where they
but
might use
the
them.
access around the other side as well. There's in parts.
I think it's because
Depends on
the
the
clock tower's that engine.
And anyway,
But that's an assumption we're making, because they will be using a
and it's
crane.
also-
It'd be good to know.
It's also
Want
more
me to collect
sensible.
some questions to go back to them?
It's
and
more
ask?
sensible that the coach park area is used rather than the car parking area, because the coaches can still stop in town and load people off and can still move away.
They
and
can
come
go to
back
the-
and it's-
How? I'm just trying to envisage
Well, they
how would that happen?
No, there's bus stops.
Yeah.
There's a
Although
coach stop by the other side of the
to
car
Jean's
park.
point though, if coaches normally park there, do
Yeah.
coaches
They're
park there in
stops.
September?
They do, they park there.
Can I just say something? I've received a lot of queries from coach companies because of the issue with Moreton-in-Marsh.
Yeah.
They've asked me if there's a
Ah,
nominated
well.
coach park. Now, I know that might be sorted by then, but they've asked me if there's a nominated coach park in Moreton so they can stop. I've told them where it is and there's only room for 3 big coaches, but I've spoken to at least 3 different companies. Now, bear in mind, they might come through the summer, but they do come all through the year to Moreton-in-Marsh. And they asked if it was prepay, and I said, no, you don't pay, and it's come as you go.
Yeah.
So, come as you find. So,
Off the
that's
Tottenham
just a
Road,
thing to throw out
there's
there.
quite often a little
Yes.
sign, homemade sign saying coach
Yeah.
park,
But
which then
also,
goes off.
this
the-
is where the local authority, the planning authority, has got to get real. It just lacks innovation when it comes to thinking about how you will plan your town. You know, instead of putting a pub up at the fire college, it could have put a park, it could have put a hub, it could have put interconnections. Think of the future of Moreton. If anybody's on any of these groups that are proposed, do think out of the box.
I did point them in the direction of Cotswold Markets, as you said about on market day,
Yeah.
just in case we did have, because obviously we don't do prepay parking or allocated parking apart from those 3 sites. So I did tell them, phone them, and I've not had any come back from that. To
Well,
see
they-
if there's anywhere.
Well, because there's obviously the cricket ground which is heavily used, but I don't know if it could take a coach because of the weight.
Don't forget
Yeah.
the actual.
But there are pullings further up,
Yeah.
so the Dawn
There
lay-bys.
is.
There
Yeah.
are,
Yeah.
there
I
are
just-
a number of lay-bys within spitting distance, in effect, of the town that
Yeah.
can be used. And don't forget, the old intention that we'd been agreed through to improve it is that you would make that a public realm rather than somewhere for
Might as well skip that,
bulging.
But to Jean's point, if they're going to close the coach park for 3 weeks. I mean, I just wonder what the options are for us to be a bit more proactive.
biggest
in terms of-
disruption is going to be
I think
local.
Yeah, saying to the
People
coach-
out there anyway.
Well, no, there are a lot of residents who park there. That's true.
Yeah, but there's more car parking spaces than there are coach
There are.
size parking
Yes.
areas.
So maybe we just need them to, I don't know, help coach companies or I don't know. I mean, I'm definitely not the expert on this, but it would be bad if there was nowhere for coaches to park or they didn't know where to park. How do we help them to know where they could go, I suppose?
Well,
And it would also
it's not
obstruct
right.
the-
That's no difference to the vast majority. You try talking to bus companies about getting to Bath. They haven't got anywhere near it, so you're expected to actually drop people off and go away.
Yeah.
Okay, but we have to focus on Moreton and the runnings of Moreton, because on a Tuesday, and I remember correctly, on Tuesday that parking area is occupied by the market, so it would obstruct, using that area would obstruct the market as well
Yeah.
for those 3 weeks, assuming that the project runs to the time scale. If it runs over, that's more disruption. September, believe it or not, is still a peak season for us, because when the families families go, children go back to school, is then the other holiday makers that avoid, they still want the summer, they want to enjoy the, Indian summer, they call it September season. What I'm suggesting is that consider using the parking bay to the front of the Redesdale Hall so that it doesn't obstruct the flow of business in Moreton, because we are already struggling.
Think about the market that was delivered.
Yeah, it's good.
But there's fewer stalls on that area. There's fewer stalls, but the whole area is used here. I just think it's not.
I think it's worth asking why, does it have to be there?
It have to be there.
Definitely.
Well, my understanding that all their contractors have made the recommendation that's the most sensible place to use it because of the.
I'm guessing it's because
Yes, but the contractors.
And also we've got there's poles and things, isn't there? There's street signage and things on that side, but there isn't on the coach parking side. It's a clear thing that they can actually pin quite easily as a space. I personally don't think it's a problem. We either consider to say yes or no, and if it's a no, then ask some other things. I don't have a problem with them using that.
I'm just worried because they need to decide before they contract these people. They need to be able to know that they've got somewhere to put them. And we're not due to meet again till the 25th of June.
But they're not needing a decision. They're not starting this project until September. Isn't that correct?
They've got to contract with people, so they must have some idea of what the space is they need.
Yeah,
I just think.
Shop somewhere, haven't they? It's just whether they do.
The contractors wouldn't know that the flow of Moreton.
Yes, but you prefer the car park side.
Well, I
Did
don't.
they
I
have
prefer
a
they use
coach
the
park?
coach
Could they not use 2/3 of it and then use some of the car park?
Well, this is
So
the point,
The
yeah,
big, say, crane. Could they not put, say, the crane there and then use some of the
Well, I
car
don't
park?
know,
Yeah.
we're trying to do their business for them.
On the outside,
Well, I think we just need to know, are we able to allow them to use whatever space on the car park? And if it's either yes or no, so
I mean, the coach park or
the coach park.
Well, to do their job, they'll have to, won't they?
I think
Not necessarily, because we're considering an alternative.
If they were asking for the coach park, if they thought they could do it or it was better on the car park, I thought they would be asking for the car park.
How
I
do you
don't think so
mitigate the
necessarily.
issue with the market?
Well, because presumably they are aware of the market as well.
Well, they are aware of the market, and I think that they even were going to try and contact day joins to offer them the inside of the hall
Well, it just
for
says,
stalls in things.
it says if you think this might cause a problem with the market, we would be happy to try and find a suitable resolution.
Well, I suggest
Sounds
that
like they might
I suggest we let them talk
Yeah.
to find the best way around it. Let them talk.
Yes, and maybe that they ask some of the business owners on the high street what they would think, because I do think it's going to be obstructive. Because it's not just one day; it's 3 weeks, potentially more, at a peak season.
There's
Well,
more,
then
there's
presumably
more
we're
days
talking
that
about
there's
this
cars
at
on
the-
the other side than there are
Sorry?
coaches on the other side.
Presumably it's the sort of thing they might be talking about at their meeting that they're having on the 12th of June. To update
Okay.
people.
We just have to hope that National Grid doesn't want to come to show the side.
Yeah.
Well, yeah.
Okay, great.
So,
Well, Malcolm, if you're, I mean, I'm inclined to ask them if there's chance they do something different, but if you think we need to make a decision now, maybe it's worth just proposing what they're saying and see if it's carried.
I personally would rather they use the coach park than the other side, but there you go. Because there's cars every day, there are not coaches every day.
There are coaches. There
There
are.
are not coaches every day.
That's why there's coaches that park there during the week. They're not as many coaches, but there are coaches that stop there.
There are not coaches every day, and in many cases they can't park there because too many people park their cars.
No, that's
illegally
more in the
anyway.
evening that I see that parking has been used by
It's
residents.
not happens all day.
Fair enough. I'm not always out because I'm in the building doing work. But when I go out, I do see in the week a vehicle, a coach or bus parked there. But it won't be as busy as a Tuesday.
But I think isn't the point to try and identify alternatives, and we've come up with a
potential alternative, we've got Muzzie's car park, that if somebody needs to know, the bus companies need to know, it's going to be,
See, we don't
you can
know
drop people in
who
town
the
because
coaches
people
are.
use the bus stops
No,
anyway,
no,
so
no.
it's just to park the bus while
Where do you
people...
think you can
walk
go
around.
when we get to the point of trying to renovate and clean up the whole centre of the town?
Oh, yeah, buses, yeah. Coaches, yeah.
That's why I'm saying, you know, if anybody goes to any of these
That's going to
meetings,
be disruptive.
think out of the box, because, you know,
Yes, but at the moment we have an alternative, and that's the front car park. Because as a council, we're meant to be thinking about the town as a whole when we make a decision, not about just the impact it's going to have for the
Well, I
trustees
think
and their
the town-
project. We have to consider the outcome.
Yeah, we are
for
talking
everyone
about a short-term
involved.
period of using a coach
But
park,
it could
which
potentially
may
run
allow us
over
to-
because we've seen how projects run over. Is that there is a plan and there's something goes wrong, they find more than they
So-
anticipate
so
that
we're
can make
trying
the
to
project
find
run over.
An alternative space for coaches to park,
Well, that's,
and we've come up with,
and that's a different
alternative
question
places.
to allowing them to use the coach park.
yes.
No,
So
because
I agree with you that the experts who are going to do the job have said they prefer the coach part.
we're
then we have to
assuming
consider
that.
Therefore, we give the coaches another part.
Yeah.
We're assuming
temporarily.
that. What about the market? We have to consider the market as well.
I think, but let's just get the resale all done. Then let's interrupt it.
It's not the job of the council,
they
Uh,
will-
in my view.
I would suggest the trustees discuss
yeah,
with the
the
market.
market,
Yeah,
yeah.
because you're right, I think
Because-
sticking some of those people in...
Well, can we defer this decision until we get some more information from the trustees?
I propose we do allow them to use a coach park.
I would second that.
No, on the basis that they...
Recorded
I'm sure
vote,
they do
please.
that. Yeah, Mike will second that. Those in favour? 3. Those against?
1.
1. Abstention, 2 abstentions. Right, passed. Grass cutting contract, nightmare. It's 9 o'clock, people. You have to give us half an hour at worst?
Yeah.
Yeah.
No? 20 minutes? Can you advance on 20 minutes?
Half an hour.
Half an hour just in case, just to be sure rather than keep doing it.
Yeah.
Okay, agreed, 9 to 9:30.
Is
Right.
there anything that's more important, or is that the priority?
We've done 12, haven't
Number
we?
11 is all to note.
We've done 12.
Yeah, we've done 12.
We haven't done, we haven't done 12.
I don't think it would take us half an hour.
No,
Okay.
come on, then crack on.
Yeah,
Right,
let's-
cutting.
Let's sort out some people that volunteer to look at this grass cutting situation again, because clearly it is not working, it is not, it's not a happy process between ourselves and the new contractors. Somebody needs to have a look at it with some time to be sure. Can we have some volunteers to try and do that, please? No, so we'll just have to put up with it.
Sorry, it's just not. I mean, July, all over it, but I am too mental at the moment.
Can we not just refer to the other contractor that we had
Can I
considered?
just say what it is that
Yeah,
we
tell me
need
what
help
needs to
with? So what we need help with is obviously there are all different areas that are cut. They're all on slightly different schedules. And really what we need to know, because they still haven't sent us any invoices and they were going to be invoicing us monthly so we could sort of compare with the cuts. We haven't had that. We really need to know and to see at the time whether those areas have been cut. So I drive in, so I try to stop and I can look at Swan Close and I can see.
It's
I
my
can
road,
see
I could
them
have done
there.
that
So,
one.
but you're welcome to it, you know, it's fine. But this is the thing, it's all the different areas. And then round by the Weedsdale Mugger, if anybody walks that way on a regular basis or anything, you know, and the schedule is, as I said,
Why?
so some things are being done once a
Why does
month.
it need to be a council? Why couldn't we ask members of the public if they want to be grass cutter watchers?
Don't worry, we get a complaint.
Yeah,
Oh,
I was
yeah,
gonna say,
exactly.
yeah, Neil Thornton's been very
You
active.
could
And so Cindy done my
potentially do
road,
that,
my road's
but you
not
may not be able to get the people together in time to get on top of this.
Do we have a list of the sites?
Yeah.
Sarah, is there an easy
Yeah,
list?
yes, we do.
And
So this is all in the contract, so I have a full list.
And the timetable? So
Yeah,
knowing when
That's a
to-
bit of a nightmare trying to print out the timetable because we've got a full year. I printed it out on A3 and I couldn't read it, it was too small, so.
On A3,
Yeah.
month at a time?
But yeah, I mean, so it says when, on this one it says like, so this is the lime trees, for example, which isn't particularly an issue because it's just one cut in October, but obviously like the verges and so on, A429 is 9 cuts, March to November, and then you've got, you know, QVG is 18, so that's, but obviously that one, not worried about that one because Brian is keeping an eye on that one,
Right, yeah.
and cemeteries as well.
Yeah.
Blenheim Meadow, less easy to keep track of that one because different areas of the meadow are cut at different
Oh, right,
times,
yeah.
so it might be useful. And there's like Blenheim Meadow wildflower, that's meant to be cut in September once.
Do they give us any advance notice when they're coming to do anything?
They don't know, well, so what they've done this year that they didn't do last year is they've given me the schedule for when they should
Right.
be here, and they are
But they still don't.
part where we've had some we had some really wet weather at the beginning, and in fact they did right at the beginning. They came and they tried to cut the verges. I think this was possibly March, April time, and he said we're going to have to go. It's too wet. We can't cut it, and they went away again.
Yeah.
But since then, I haven't had any phone calls to say we're coming. But I'm going on the schedule, and they've been around the weeks that they've said they were going to be. And I think one week they did actually appear when they weren't scheduled. That might have been when they tried to cut Blenheim Meadow, and they started doing the ditches, and it was too late because council asked them to do the ditches by the end of March to pay last year's invoice, which they still haven't invoiced again for that, and we haven't paid it. They haven't actually emailed me to say we weren't able to do it in March because it was too wet, but you know, that's why they weren't able to do it, and so they were trying to meet that target by then doing it in May, and it's too late, too wet to do it.
Yeah.
I think, see, Brian tends to look at the public areas, he does, doesn't he? Because he puts it on his timesheet.
He does QVG and the cemeteries.
Yeah, and he's where he is. I think for us, what we've been trying to do is the residential, because I do Fossway, so Fossway hasn't cut since March.
Different bits of it.
And
Yeah.
different bits, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, so I think the residential where we don't have to keep driving down streets to check would be a help.
Yeah.
I'm not
If
sure
you
about
could
where
do
they
Meadow.
live,
Well, Swan,
because I think.
Swan Close is easy for me.
Yeah.
Well,
See, I can do Fossway because I live there, because I drive down every day, so that's not an issue.
Okay.
I tell you what, because if people are willing to sort of try
Isolate.
one of them and just
Yeah.
say, oh, I'll do this one, that one, and then
Yeah.
we
Yeah.
can give you this,
Isolate.
share the schedule with you,
Yeah.
it's on a
Great.
spreadsheet,
Yeah.
and then you can
Give us-
see when
Yeah,
it's
give
going
us,
to be.
tell me when Blenheim Way is supposed to be done and things, and I'll
Yeah.
check that one.
and what about the greens in town?
Yeah.
What about those ones?
Would Brian
So they
not
do the
notice
greens and they
those
do
if
the
he's on
verges
his
usually
way?
on the same,
Yeah.
on the same schedule. And to be honest, if you're going past, you can usually tell they're done.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, but isn't one of the questions, are they
When-
being done to the,
yes, when
to
are
the
they being
schedule,
done?
in other words, whether they're picking up or dropping it? I know most
I
of
think
it's dropped,
it's-
isn't it? So-
this is
Yeah,
what
I mean,
she's
there's-
explained
There is this
I was
other
thinking,
element
yeah.
of, are they cutting to the quality? So for example, the under the lime trees, it happens most often because it's under a tree, or the verge under a tree, they are meant to pick up any, so like there's branches and such, they're meant to actually pick up and remove those. Now I know the lime trees as you come in past Sport Close, there's a big stick there, branch, which they moved it to one side, but they didn't take it, but they didn't actually take it away.
Which one's the lime trees?
They're on the left-hand side before the hospital road turning,
Oh, yeah.
and then you've got the
okay.
lime trees.
I
in
need to where
between.
Nick lives.
Yeah.
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 So they do all the lime trees in the town apart from QVG, and Brian does those.
So they get rid of all the shoots off the
Yeah.
bottom, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, I can look at those as well.
I mean, the lime trees only get done once a year, in
Yeah.
October.
So those are.
Yeah.
So you
Oh,
can give us
okay.
a copy of the schedule.
I will, yeah.
Because
Give us a
it's
copy of the
actually
schedule.
to-
And
Yeah.
church.
So, are we saying that Eileen, Bob and Matt, you're happy to attempt to have a look at some of these things?
Yeah.
Can I suggest then that you do it by email and
Yeah.
get the schedule over to each of you, so that you know
And we'll
what it is, and then
divvy
you
it up
gauge,
amongst us,
yeah,
or at least
Well,
pick up something.
Yeah.
no,
I'm not
I
following
Thank you, three.
For lots.
Can we just note the other issues first before we get to the other bit? Note that we've got no invoices yet, despite asking for them.
Yeah.
Note that the revisor has not come. Note that the ditch cutting that was agreed for March wasn't done. Yes, they did turn up and they couldn't do it, and they used the wrong equipment because they thought it'd be okay, but then it poured down the rain again and had to go over again. Note that the detail of the unit's not being adhered to. They didn't collect at the first cut, not collecting when the ditches are cutting, but streaming has improved. So the ultimate issue is that we must consider looking at an alternative contractor for some or all of the hedges and ditches for next year. And the contract date runs to between 1 and 1?
2028.
When's the break clause in the contract?
Well, it's just over.
Okay,
so
yeah.
And in fact, because they're not sticking to it, you can just drop them any time, really.
Okay.
I'm
But
going to pick up.
obviously you don't want to be without.
Yeah, picking up on the comment that Angus made earlier. Yes, Cotswold now has its own management company. They have appointed their own third-party landscape contractors who will be dealing with contractors themselves to do some of the grass cutting issues, subcontractors to do some of the work around, so some are tree cutting, some are grass cutting, some are other things. So we're going to have to go through the process of identifying somebody. Would it be appropriate to suggest they might want to have a conversation with the council? Whoever we might be talking to.
Again, if the tendering is sufficiently covered so that the cost of it can be relayed from your funding to do that makes it scratch each other's backs, that's no different to us doing the county councils.
Yeah.
But,
that's what I was thinking.
But you see, if we got to the point where we were thinking about changing the companies, of course, people could suggest to us, and we could let people.
Yes.
You'd let people know when you're tendering, because it would go on the contracts portal, because it's a big tender.
Yeah, I mean, I think
The council would need. I think just the council would need to agree to the tender to include.
I don't know whether the people that potentially we're going to be using are capable of submitting tenders up to the level that might be expected for a local authority. But I think, Jean, you mentioned who came second in the previous one. I think that was Ubico, and I think Ubico have actually pulled out of doing landscaping.
They're not available, because obviously we tried them. But it's interesting, you went out to tender, and obviously the company you chose put in a good, really good tender, but on the ground.
Yeah.
So is that for residents that they've taken over? Is it the residents that have taken over the green space?
We got rid of
Yeah. Oh, good.
Have you got all the remus work now?
Yes.
So you're taking all of the funding that comes through from the residents?
Yeah.
Ooh, so you've got to be the ones that decide whether you put when you put it up and by how much.
Yeah.
Yeah, but that's
Well, not me
that's a
personally.
residents
That's the
association.
Residents Association.
Yeah, that's
included.
better than.
Yeah.
That's better
So we
than
can
green
start
stuff.
not doing stupid things with dog poo bins and.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's good.
But the company that we have contracted the sort of overall management of the area so a remus alternative. They are going to be challenging. I don't know whether anybody's heard, but they sent all the residents. So they should be giving us all the residents a set of accounts at the end of each year. So from 2015, I think, when they started selling houses. So the latest ones that we had before we bought the house was 2019. So it should have been 1920.
Yeah.
We should have had. And before this little transaction, we got an invoice sent to us in the post for £1.24, because when they did the audit of 1920, which they then proceeded to give us all, they didn't collect enough money, so they billed us £1.24. It cost them 80 whatever it is pence for second class postage. They are stupid. Yeah. So we've now got 20, 21, 22 and 22, 23, their calendar year accounts. They're all a subset of Remus's own general ledger system, so they're not separate legal entity
Oh gosh,
audited accounts, so they could be putting anything like in there. But it was only last year that we said, just a minute, what's your management plan for this? Because this is supposed to be a nature reserve, because they were cutting it just like to an inch of its life. And then they came up with a scheme which said, well, we'll just cut edges around the front and lines down the middle to give people walking access. Must have cut that grass cutting by a third. Well,
They've replaced your trees 3 or 4 times.
Yeah.
Well, no,
Because haven't they gone up and killed them?
well,
They've
yeah, I
replaced
mean,
quite a
we're
lot
going to
of
have to
trees.
replace the trees ourselves
Yeah.
anyway, because they wanted to charge us 12 grand to do that.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
we'll get the trees off.
Get trees for free.
Yeah,
Well,
well,
I
100
trust.
quid, 125 quid, I think. For,
I planted loads of trees.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They're wooden trucks.
Right, anyway.
Yeah. So I will feedback anything I get from whoever we're using.
So what are we going to do about looking for alternatives? Last time we had a work group to try and attempt
We
to do
did.
this.
I mean,
It was
the
a-
tender was a very big job, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Chancellor Street.
But I
I
think
mean,
the
obviously
work
you've-
for that has been done.
Then you've got the tender, so you might want to tweak it a bit. I'd
Yeah.
suggest you tweak it in relation to, I can't remember if it's hedges or ditches.
But of course, if we go
Ditches
down
or
that route,
ditches
then
is
we
not a
obviously put the
specification.
existing contractor on notice that we're looking elsewhere, and therefore they may just shuffle off.
But if they did, we'd be left high and dry in
Yeah.
the summer.
Don't wanna do
We
that.
wouldn't be saying any of that.
September or something?
Because they could just do a banner.
I think the contract's October, isn't it?
Yeah.
I think
Yeah,
you need,
that's
I think you
October.
started the process, Chas started the process in September.
Contracts not October, when they
They
started, is it
start-
like April?
Yeah, but when
Yeah.
Chas started the process, he started almost as a councillor. If you remember, it was left too late for West Oxford the last
Yeah.
year. I had to ask him to carry it on,
Yeah.
and it was still only done.
I think
He was still only starting in March that year, because when you get everything agreed, you kept tweaking it. But you've got most of it.
Yeah.
I mean,
But we just need
Yeah.
to review it.
Yeah.
Probably
But the earlier the better, really.
probably a meeting to review it at
Well,
some point.
no,
Let's
we do
do
need to
I
that.
think because you've got to review your financial regulations with these new ones, and I
Yeah.
know there's something in there about tenders,
Yeah.
so that'll be finance committee at the end of June.
June.
Yeah.
Can I suggest we push this over to the next F&G then to
Yeah.
decide how best to consider looking at alternative contractors, yeah?
Yeah.
Can we push that to F&G?
Yeah.
Yeah, defer and go to F&G?
Mm.
Yeah, we all happy with that?
Mm-hmm.
11. Slide seems to be due to installation problems.
Yeah.
That's great fun.
The issue about the offer of reduced costs or other things, or to do the wet core and other items, do we have a preference as to which one of those we'd like to do?
Yeah, I mean, the only feedback I've had since they came and said these things was, Ben came back to me and said, he gave the initials of somebody. I don't think it was the director that I met anyway. He said he's away on leave at the moment. When he comes back, I'll let you know what the offer is.
And you've not had it yet?
So no, because
Oh, well,
when we
that's
were
great.
there, we were having
Okay.
discussions, and this guy who was the director of the company was saying, like, Ben, you need to get quotes for, this, that and the other and get it costed up. And,
Yeah, okay.
but I'm not sure.
But if you chase them and see that
Yeah,
they're
can we ask
Yeah,
you
yeah.
to chase for an answer?
Yeah.
then we can choose
Yeah.
next time.
Yeah.
Grant to chase for answer.
Okay, so if Rossborough, so the next one, it says note, but if Rossborough confirmed that the proposal to
Meets.
repair the scapegoat is acceptable, do we just say to the...
Well, you delegated it to me
No,
to.
we've already done it.
Yeah.
Right, okay, done, right. I'll
Just
let you
yeah,
take
so yeah, so they'll go ahead and do it.
Lovely, good.
I just don't know when. I don't have a date to have asked.
Yeah.
Okay. Right, correspondence. Open dates for the fun fair, 12th, 13th and 14th September.
Is it usually 3 days?
Yeah.
But yeah.
Can I ask a sort of newbie
Yeah.
outside the question?
But this one comes in on a Wednesday, the other one comes in on Tuesday.
That Moreton has an old charter to have a fun
Yeah.
fair, is that right?
Yeah.
It has quite a poor impact on local shops, as I understand it.
Yeah.
Tell me if I'm wrong. I think it has a really poor impact.
Yeah.
Do we have to have it? I mean,
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
chartered.
It's
It's chartered.
it's charter,
Yes.
Yeah.
But it doesn't...
even though it's rubbish.
What do you mean it's rubbish? I see lots of families and children walking past my shop window.
I think a lot of people.
There was no one there last
I think a
time.
lot of people.
Yeah,
Yeah,
And all the shopkeepers that the 2 or 3 shopkeepers basically just said it just kills their business for a few days.
It's
The
one of
autumn,
those
the
things.
autumn one, there was really good feedback from
Yeah.
the
Was there?
Last
Okay.
autumn.
All right.
Yeah, the last autumn one was really nice. I was sat at the
I did tell me
it was
you
nice,
beat, so I'm
but I
happy to
really
be told
want
to
one
shut up.
ride.
Fine.
I think the negative impact is the parking, but
Yeah.
the last twice, I've actually put it on Facebook that there's no parking, and I told them where alternative parking is, and people have been quite positive about it.
Great.
So,
Okay, super.
yeah.
I'll shut up.
So
As long as
do like it.
the retail hall doesn't want to park on.
Are we happy with 12:30 to 14th?
Is it going to not
Yeah.
clash with the Reedsdale Hall using the
No,
parking?
no.
They'll wait for these
They'll
dates
work
and
around
then they'll.
Who's they?
The Reedsdale, the contractors.
They'll wait for
It
these
is.
dates.
It is the same weekend as the
What?
beer festival.
And it
That's
usually
That's
is the
all
same
right.
weekend. They have to avoid
Oh,
more
is it?
chokes of traffic, and they usually come that
Beer
weekend
festivals
or
is
that
it?
week.
If we agree
They
that
usually
12th,
actually,
13th and
people go to there,
14th,
they go to the beer
the hall know that they won't
Oh,
be able to
autumn,
be
yeah,
there
yeah,
on the 12th,
yeah, yeah,
13th and 14th.
Yeah, that's a
Yeah.
fair comment.
So,
Is it usually,
Yes.
does it usually clash with the beer festival?
Yeah.
yeah.
So people go to the fair, then they go to beer festival.
And then they
So
smash
it's
all their
like,
glasses on the way back, yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's fine.
Is these the dates that the fair organisers have requested?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, someone propose that? Happy? I'll do that. I'll propose those. Someone
I'll
second?
May I second it?
Yeah. Okay, those in favour? That's unanimous. Thanks.
We've done the next.
We've done the suitable member for the Gloucester Market Town Foreman.
Yeah.
Anyone want to do that?
You would do
No, I don't, well, if I did at some other point, I'd forgotten it, so I'm happy to put a name forward for that.
You are? Yeah?
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 Oh, those Bob.
Does anyone else want to do
I'll
it?
second you on that
Does anyone else want to do it? I'm quite happy to go if I'm available, so I'm quite happy for the 2 of us to go, because it's
Yeah.
been in pairs before when we've done it.
Yeah.
But I can't guarantee to be around to do it all the time, so I'm quite happy to do that as well. If
So we
it
share
suits
it,
us.
is that, yeah?
Well, we just gotta go.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Is it once a year or
then.
something?
It'll be online and.
Sometimes it's online,
Oh, okay.
sometimes they have
Yeah.
get-togethers, which sometimes can be useful for them to talk about
Okay.
some of the issues that they have in their towns that you can reflect on for yours in impact type of thing. So,
Okay.
so Bob and me, okay. Anyone who's going to volunteer
You-
to do that? Eileen, will you have to propose those?
You proposed, I've seconded
Yeah.
you.
Okay. So those two, those in favour? Yeah, that's unanimous. Thanks. There's no guarantee, Bob, at least I might be able to accompany you now again if we're doing anything else. Right, to note, Moreton Show, they've got an accessibility grant and want to, they've asked us whether we would want to consider having an accessibility champion to perhaps have conversations with them to see if there's anything that can work mutually to the advantage of both.
Yeah. I have a suggestion.
Mhm.
Well, I have a question first. Does it have to be a councillor?
Yeah. Yeah, that's what they're asking for.
Yeah. But could we
From the
nominate
council.
somebody,
Okay.
having touched them up about whether they'd be prepared to do it?
What, to be there on
To
your
be-
behalf? I don't
Yeah.
think so. Well,
I only say that because I'm thinking of, in her scooter thing, wheelchair. I mean, I have no idea what the problems are that you have to face as somebody with mobility issues.
Yeah, and I don't know whether she would.
I don't know whether
actually
want to do it either, but
yeah, to volunteer
I
to
know
do it
somebody that would.
on behalf of Lincoln with us. I don't know if she would like to do that. She might be quite keen to
I
try
think
to
what
do
they were
that
looking
to
for was
report back.
whether
They're
somebody
looking for a
from
councillor,
the
aren't they?
council representing the council.
Yeah.
Yeah, my only thought would be that if anybody around this table were to take on that role, they had to go and talk to people like Jeanette or the couple that are in wheelchairs, the market.
Well,
So
or at least
yeah.
be of a certain level of being very open to understand the implications of a number of these things.
Yeah. I guess
I
we
don't
haven't
think
had to live
I
it.
don't think you need to actually live it to do it. I just think you need to be someone who's
If
prepared
we've
to actually
got
put
one
the effort in to
in
do
the
it.
town, if we've got one.
Well, just
is
yeah, we
keen
keep
to
sharing
look at-
everything out, and there are very few people. And, yeah.
Yeah, and, you know, I don't know if they've asked anybody else.
I don't think I would want to particularly sort of do that.
Okay. So
But I don't have a problem. We could ask them if they would be happy for us to consider a resident that might be prepared to act as a liaison person on accessibility issues who would be able to do it from an impact position. And then we could ask
we could put
if
it on
there's
a notice
anyone in
board,
the town, if they're
yeah.
prepared to do that. We could directly ask whether she would be interested in doing that.
Oh, we might have somebody in the town, if they say yes, we might have somebody in the town who actually does this.
Well, I suggest we ask them whether they think it would be sufficient, because obviously there's only so many councillors. I don't think any of us are particularly well versed, unless anyone tells me otherwise, on accessibility specialities. So why don't we ask them?
And if the answer is they don't mind whether it's a member of the public or a councillor, that we
can
can
put
then
something
put
up,
something on the notice board.
put something up on notice boards and ask
Social
if
media.
someone put it on social media, and if necessary, we could ask anyone we know that
Great.
actually suffers problems with disabilities and would like to be a liaison person on that side.
I think it was Jeanette that actually mentioned the issues with the parcels.
She did.
Because she had
Yes.
a wheelchair.
Yes,
Yeah,
she
so
did.
she issued about the debt, didn't we? And that's
Yeah.
what we're talking about those.
About funding it.
Different types of-
So she might be.
She might be, she might be have that.
But you have some people in mind that you could ask directly.
Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
again, you have to try and, you may have somebody who's a specialist in accessibility, auditing, because that's what they do for a day job.
Yeah, and they are saying if you've got anyone within the workforce, which, I mean, they might get them, but if we ask that, it's a liaison with their person, and we might get an advantage two ways. Yeah? Is that good?
Yeah.
Brilliant. What have we got next?
Communication.
Oh, anything we want to put out to anyone? Yeah, fair dates.
Reserve down.
Well, I think Nick's already done that last night, and he's
Oh, yeah, okay.
put a meeting out. He's
Right, okay.
he put a leaflet out to say that they've got. Get the public meeting. Tell them about the whole public meeting as well.
Yeah.
But we have a responsibility as councillors to communicate with the public because there's only a few people there.
Yeah. What else? Well, what else do we want to? What else do you suggest we do?
Well, Bob just mentioned about the...
Yeah. Okay. We can talk about the.
What about the title transfer as well?
Yeah. Endowment title transfer.
When is next meeting going to be?
12th of June.
12th of June?
Yeah. Obviously, he hopes, I'm guessing, that week is the week where things are starting to...
Can you change it from the 25th?
No, they're redone for the.
Oh yeah. Sorry. Yeah. Put them in transfer.
I'm going to put this poster up now
Yeah.
for the D-Day.
Yeah. D-Day.
That's going to go on.
Yeah. Get that out again. Oh, especially about saying about the addition of that, because
Yeah,
you
yeah. Well, I
asking
will
me
push-
about it, and
yeah.
I wasn't sure. So if you can push the issue with the also Right, can we have, next date of the next meeting is 25th, can we exclude the public please? All those in favour?
we've missed item 14.
Yeah, items to note for
Items to
future
note,
consideration.
Yeah, right, right, 14, we may have to extend a couple of minutes further.
Well, I was just wondering, I was talking with someone today, I'm sure this is already organised, but I thought I'd mention it anyway. The High Street, the planters on the High Street, it's the watering for the High Street planters has been organised.
Is that
That's
the
what
group?
that's
Volunteers
what the group
group.
does.
So it has been organised, yeah?
That's-
Okay, so
that's
the
right.
volunteers,
Gina's group, I think, do that.
Yeah.
okay, because it,
My understanding, because Emma went to them, is that each shop that is opposite a planter are taking the responsibility for watering them. And Gina will, I'm sure, be keeping pretty
Yeah,
close eye.
yeah, and that's the my thing. And I've actually put a thank you on
Yeah,
the
it looks
Facebook page.
absolutely.
Yeah, so
thank
that's
you.
To thank them all.
Yeah.
Just,
Yeah,
thank
so
you responses for
right.
that, yeah.
We wanted
That's
to make sure
positive.
they particularly thank them again when
Yeah.
I spoke yesterday as well,
Yeah.
as I did to all the other volunteers in the town. Can I suggest we move for another additional 10 minutes, please?
Yeah,
Yeah.
I had something that I wanted to put on future consideration very quickly.
Oh no, let's do the
Okay,
10 minutes. I'll propose, someone second me?
I'll second you.
Yeah, Bob, those in favour? Yeah, it's unanimous, thanks. Go on.
No, actually, I'll skip it.
Okay.
I'll have one. I did email the clerk about this, and it was actually something Chaz mentioned earlier about Councillor Brokenshire. Obviously, we're pretty short councillors, so I think it's the next meeting, it will have been 6 months.
Well, we'll be off before then.
Okay, so just wondering whether we wrap in the co-option of the space vacated by Darren and the space that will be vacated by Scott, if that's the case, and do those two together.
Yeah, you just have to delay your current vacancy to match that one.
So I wonder if that's something worth discussing at the next meeting, or
Yeah.
not for now.
Okay.
Haven't
Yeah.
CDC already announced a vacancy?
Yes.
Yeah, and
That's for Darren, yeah.
And that's already passed.
That's
the
closed
period
now,
for
closed.
that,
Yeah.
so
So it can be
It
held
can now be
whenever you can
co-opted now.
co-opt.
Right.
but you got to go through that process with them anyway, so.
I'll put that as an item to note, and we can put that on the,
Yeah.
Okay.
can we put it, actually, no, we can't put it on the
No,
notification,
no.
actually need to agree.
No.
No,
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 residents call for an election for that one.
no,
If it's
No.
closed.
2.
Also, there wasn't 10.
No.
So it was co-option.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
No, it'll be next time, won't it?
Yeah.
yeah, because you need
And
to
then you
decide the job description,
Yeah.
so to speak.
Yeah, just
Okay.
double check that.
Yeah.
So, yeah, on the next one, yeah.
Okay, if you want more.
Right, I propose to exclude the public, someone second me?
Yeah, I'll second. Yeah.
No,
Doesn't that
I've got that. All those in favour? We haven't done it properly, yeah.